Chapter 1784. When Qin Wenyan came to participate in the convention of the Myriad Realms, he also didn't expect that he would encounter his mother's clan. This could also be considered a coincidence. If it wasn't for 10 Miles Springwind suggesting to rob the Heaven Immortal Tower, most probably even if he encountered Luo Xinlei, he wouldn't know that there was such a relationship between them and would only treat her as a stranger. Right now, the influence of this matter on Qin Wenyan's state of heart had already surpassed the convention itself. However, to the many world overlords of the mystic region, the convention of the Myriad Realms was the true purpose of their trip here. Their gazes were still focused on the convention in the outside world. It has already been some time since Qin Wenyan released 13 Heaven Heart mandates and the various supreme geniuses all stepped out to display their brilliance. Although there were still people who went to the Heaven Heart Mirror to display their Heaven Heart mandates, there was no longer a commotion like that day. This lasted until the light from the Heaven Heart Mirror vanished from the ancient mountain. That ancient mountain seemed to have transformed into an ordinary mountain, no longer possessing the miraculous power of the Heaven Heart Mirror. But on the second day after the Heaven Heart Mirror vanished, on top of the ancient mountain, in the Time Realm, 4 resplendent beams of light suddenly lit up. These 4 beams of light seemed to have descended from the heavens. These 4 beams of light illuminated every corner of the Time Realm, resembling 4 stone tablets hovering in the air. There were experts who wanted to grab them, but they discovered that there was nothing in their hands. They were like beams of light, impossible to grab or even touch. What is that? At this moment, in the palace Qin Wenyan was in, Mo Qingcheng stood beside Qin Wenyan and asked in a light voice. The 4 beams of light were too resplendent. There seemed to be strange diagrams engraved on them that radiated the might of the great Tao. Qin Wenyan also couldn't see through them. He stared at the 4 beams of light and replied, there would always be some miraculous treasures appearing in the convention of the Myriad Realms every time, testing the world overlords who came here to participate in the convention. It's just that I have no way to see through them. Is all of this really controlled by the 3 hegemonic powers in the shadows? Mo Qingcheng asked in a light voice. It was rumored that the Time Realm was the place where the Time King cultivated back then. Maybe there might be some ruins left behind by the Time King. Naturally, this was only a guess. Who knows? However, as the giants of the Xian region, the 3 great powers are unparalleled existences. Without a doubt, they know everything the best, said Qin Wenyan in a soft voice. In another palace, the eyes of Old Ghost stared up in the air. When he saw the 4 spiraling stone monuments, his eyes narrowed into slits as his expression turned heavy. This seemed to be the legendary Time Monument inscription. Even in the convention of the Myriad Realms, it was extremely rare. He had already participated in many conventions, but this was the second time he saw the Time Monument inscription. In the past, he had only appeared once. After the Time Monument inscription appeared, a character that even the 3 hegemonic powers of the mystic region felt trepidation towards appeared. Right now, that person had already become a legend in the mystic region. As for Qin Wenyan, he was still a nobody. Old Ghost took out his messaging crystal and sent out a few strands of immortal sense. All of you, come to my location. Old Ghost, what's the matter? 10 Miles Springwind asked. Chao Tian nodded. Phoenix and Qin Wenyan both replied and rushed over. Old Ghost was the most mysterious among the 5 of them and was also the oldest. Qin Wenyan always felt that he was a little mysterious. Back then when this Old Ghost entered Time City, he wore a simple robe and had a hunched back. Even Jun Mingchen thought that he was just an ordinary old man. If it wasn't for the fact that Qin Wenyan was at the World Overlord realm and could sense it, he would have thought the same as well. Not long after, the few of them arrived at Old Ghost's location. Old Ghost, why did you suddenly think of us? Is it because of the 4 beams of light in the sky? Phoenix asked. Other than Wenyan, this isn't the first time you guys have participated in the convention of the Myriad Realms. Have you all seen such a scene before? Old Ghost asked. Nope. The few of them shook their heads. Chao Tian spoke. You should have participated in the convention the most. Could it be that you know something? Is there something different about these 4 beams of light? I've seen it before a very long time ago. During that convention, there was another person who participated in it. You guys definitely know who he is. Old Ghost mysteriously spoke. 10 Miles Springwind curiously asked. The others also stared at Old Ghost. This fellow was trying to keep them in suspense. Sorgenlai. Old Ghost slowly spoke. 10 Miles Springwind was bewildered. He had never heard of such a person before. I don't know. Chao Tian shook his head. Phoenix also stared at Old Ghost in bewilderment. Qin Wendian had a face filled with black lines. Didn't Old Ghost say that he would definitely know? Why didn't any of them know? This Old Ghost, the mysterious Old Ghost, also had a face filled with black lines. He speechlessly stared at these people before him and spoke. I forgot your ages. Maybe you guys don't know his real name. In that case, he has another title, Sword Monarch. What? 10 Miles Springwind instantly froze. His eyes flashed with a dazzling light. He had never heard of Sorgenlai before, but how could he not know the name Sword Monarch? This person was definitely an awesome character, a legendary character. The Sword Monarch of the Mystic Region, the #1 sword under the heavens. Chao Tian's eyes narrowed as he stared at Old Ghost. Old Ghost, how old are you exactly? You actually participated in the convention of the Myriad Realms with the Sword Monarch before. 10 Miles Springwind and Phoenix had strange expressions on their faces when they heard this. They stared at Old Ghost with disdain. The Sword Monarch's name has already shaken the world and is known as the #1 sword under the heavens in the Mystic Region. Old man, you are still participating in the convention of the Myriad Realms? Isn't the disparity between you two a little too great? Phoenix spoke in disdain. Old Ghost's expression completely turned black. All right, all of you can leave now. I don't wish to speak anymore. Don't, Old Ghost. Did the Sword Monarch really participate in the convention of the Myriad Realms with you? 10 Miles Springwind smiled and asked curiously. The Sword Monarch was his idol. Do you guys really think it's very long? How long has the Sword Monarch been famous? It hasn't even reached 100,000 years. Is it very long to cultivate for 100,000 years in the World Overlord realm? Old Ghost glared at these people before him. If everyone here has the talent of the Sword Monarch, my name would have already shaken the world by now. Would I still need to see you guys? Yes, there's no harm if there's no comparison. 10 Miles Springwind giggled. In that case, back then when the Sword Monarch participated in the convention of the Myriad Realms together with you, the scene before your eyes also appeared? Old Ghost had a heavy expression on his face as he nodded. Back then when Sword Monarch came to participate in the convention, he wasn't really famous. But his performance was extremely dazzling and was noticed by many people. He even had a conflict with a genius from the heaven-shrouding manor. You guys should know what happened next. Sword Monarch came alone with a sword and razed the entire heaven-shrouding manor to flat ground. This caused a huge commotion, and the three hegemonic powers all had some opinions about him. One of them even wanted to capture him because the heaven-shrouding manor was a vassal state of that hegemonic power. You guys should know which hegemonic power I'm talking about. In that case, the rumor that the Sword Monarch came to the Heavenly Deity Mountain to challenge that heavenly deity and defeated him was true? 10 Miles Springwind asked. The truth is even more exaggerated than the rumors. If not, why do you think that heavenly deity compromised and didn't pursue the matter? The title of the Sword Monarch also resounded throughout the Mystic Region. However, it said that he also made some compromises. From then on, very few people saw him. Old Ghost slowly spoke. Wasn't there a rumor that he might have already been killed? Could it be true? Chao Tian asked. Naturally not. Old Ghost directly denied. Chao Tian stared at him in bewilderment. Why are you so sure? Could it be that you know something? How could the Sword Monarch be killed? Old Ghost didn't reply to Chao Tian. After that, he continued, all right, let's not talk about the matters of the past for now. Let's talk about proper business. These 4 beams of light are known as the Time Monument inscriptions. I'm sure that they have nothing to do with the 4 hegemons. They were left behind by the Time Realm Lord. Time Realm Lord. The eyes of everyone flashed with sharpness. What are these time monument inscriptions exactly? I don't know. I only know that back then during the convention of the myriad realms, the sword monarch comprehended the true intent of the time monument inscriptions. From then on, his sword improved by leaps and bounds until he was given the title of the #1 sword expert in the mystic region. As for what he comprehended, I have no idea. Maybe everyone's comprehension of the time monument inscriptions is different. Old Ghost slowly spoke. Seems like another sword monarch has been born. 10 Miles Springwind mumbled in a low voice as he seriously spoke. Chao Tian glanced at him as he asked. He's right in front of you. You can't see it? 10 Miles Springwind asked in bewilderment. Scram! Chao Tian roared. This was simply shameless. Let's go to the area directly below the time monument inscriptions. Although we can see it from here, I feel that there's still a difference. Old Ghost spoke. After that, 5 figures flashed and flew towards the direction of the ancient mountain where the Heaven Heart mirror disappeared. When they arrived, there were already many world overlords gathered here, including the hegemonic level world overlords from the various peak powers. What Old Ghost knew, maybe ordinary world overlords wouldn't know. But for these peak powers of the mystic region, they would definitely know. Hence, they treated the appearance of the time monument inscriptions with extreme importance. Even the transcendent level world overlords of the older generations were here. They sat cross-legged in different locations on the ancient mountain, staring at the 4 rotating time monument inscriptions in the air. Qin Wenyin and the other 4 sat together. He was the same as the others, staring at the time monument inscriptions in the air. The sword monarch, Jian Junlai. Although he had never heard of him before, but since he could be given the title of the #1 sword expert under the heavens, one could very well imagine how powerful he was. Maybe his accomplishments didn't depend solely on the time monument inscriptions, but it was still worth exploring. Chapter 1785. Many experts sat there quietly. Even for those hegemonic level world overlords of the older generations, they were all seriously staring at the time monument inscription. They did know of Jian Junlai's story and also some rumors about the Time King. The first hegemon of the mystic region, the Time King, was a character that could shake the heavens and earth. Back then, the Time King of the mystic region caused the hegemons of the 8 regions to feel trepidation. If this time monument inscription truly had a connection with the Time King, the sword monarch must have comprehended some sort of energy from it, causing his name to shake the world. Qin Wenyin quietly comprehended. He could sense that the time monument inscriptions contained a great Tao. There seemed to be an indescribable energy that was as hard to fathom as the mysteries of the heavens. It was extremely blurry and indistinct. All 4 sides of the time monument inscriptions were the same. Naturally, Qin Wenyin also understood that if the time monument inscriptions were so easy to comprehend, Old Ghost wouldn't be so solemn and would even intentionally introduce the legend of the sword monarch Jian Junlai to them. More and more people gathered here. On the ancient mountain, experts were as common as the clouds, but it was exceptionally quiet. Everyone was silently comprehending. Luo Shenlei also came. When she saw Qin Wenyin, she walked to a spot not far away from Qin Wenyin and sat down. After that, she also started to comprehend the time monument inscription. The convention of the myriad realms was a peak-level event in the mystic region. Even in the entire supreme ancient immortal realms, it was extremely famous. She crossed realms to come here, and since she coincidentally came here, she naturally had to take this opportunity to comprehend it. Time flowed by unknowingly. In Qin Wentian's comprehension, the time monument inscription was still blurry. However, it was much clearer compared to before. He could faintly sense the energy within the time monument inscription. It was boundlessly wondrous. In fact, he even sensed that his consciousness had already entered the time monument inscription. Within it, he felt like he was in an illusory world. This place was a world of the great Tao. Boundless runic light weaved together to form the great Tao of heaven and earth, incomparably profound. What Tao is this? In the illusory space, Qin Wentian's consciousness was roaming about. He had no way to comprehend what sort of energy was this exactly. The world of 10,000 laws contained a myriad of laws, but he had never felt such energy before. Could it be that this was the illusory time? If it really was the Tao of time, how could he grasp it? After comprehending for a very long time, Qin Wendian still didn't gain anything from the time monument inscription. He could only withdraw his consciousness. He opened his eyes and stared at the surroundings. Right now, a few years have already passed, but everyone was still extremely quiet. It was like the time when he first came here. A few years to world overlords was simply too short. It was just like the time when he first came here. Naturally, there were also some ordinary world overlords who didn't gain anything. Hence, they didn't have the heart to comprehend and could only sigh silently. Qin Wendian glanced at the second stone monument. He discovered that he had no way to enter this stone monument. Even his will couldn't enter. It was like the void, as though there was an invisible gate blocking everything. He could only give up and look at the other stone monument. This time around, things weren't the same as before. As he tried to comprehend, his consciousness entered it. It was still a chaotic void, mysterious and unfathomable. However, when Qin Wendian compared the feeling he got from the two stone tablets, he suddenly felt that something was different. Hence, he tried to unleash his own energy here, but he discovered that there was nothing. He still couldn't comprehend the crux of it. He withdrew once again and attempted to comprehend the final stone tablet. He also entered it, but after that, he felt that it was extremely quiet inside. It was like there was nothing there and he still didn't gain anything. On the ancient mountain, Qin Wendian opened his eyes and sighed silently as he stared at the revolving time monument inscription. "Brother Qin, you can't comprehend it?" 10 Miles Springwind coincidentally glanced at him as he asked. "Mysteriousness, there seems to be some sort of miraculous energy, but I can't grasp it at all." Qin Wendian shook his head and sighed. "Haha, if it's so easy to comprehend, I wouldn't have become a sword monarch." 10 Miles Springwind laughed. "Don't be anxious. Although I haven't comprehended anything now, since I'm someone who wants to become a sword monarch, I naturally have to endure loneliness. I will continue to comprehend it." Qin Wendian had a face filled with black lines. However, he was already used to 10 Miles Springwind's shamelessness. "How do you guys feel?" In a certain direction on the ancient mountain, the people from a major power were currently conversing. Unfathomable. One of them spoke in a low voice. "My consciousness entered the time monument inscription, but I can't sense the existence of any energy. Could it be the power of time?" Someone spoke in a low voice. "It's very possible. Time is formless. In the time realm we are in, the flow of time is different. But who can sense it?" "That's true. Time is a relative concept. It's formless and it's an extremely mysterious Tao." "Time is formless," Qin Wendian mumbled. The formless Tao was naturally unfathomable. Hence, although he felt that it was boundlessly wondrous, he had no way to describe what was so wondrous about it. "Elder brother, do you have any insights?" A voice rang out in Qin Wendian's mind. This was naturally Luo Xinlei's voice. Only she would address Qin Wendian like this. Bai Qing referred to him as Wendian Gij. "My consciousness entered 3 sides of the time monument inscription. 2 of them seem to be flowing with a wondrous energy, 1 of them is incomparably quiet, and I have no way to see through the last one." Qin Wendian spoke in a low voice. "It's so powerful. I've only entered 2 sides." Luo Xinlei smiled as she transmitted her voice over. "Elder brother, the first-generation overlord of the mystic region is the God King of Time. The Time Realm was also established by the God King of Time, who has the title of the Time King. If these 4 sides of the Time Monument inscription have something to do with the God King of Time, you can consider it from the perspective of time. I've read through the ancient records in my clan before. The God King of Time has the ability to penetrate through the heavens and earth. However, the most basic aspect of the Tao of Time is to change the flow of time. World overlords would also be able to do that. This might be a direction." Qin Wendian nodded in agreement. Luo Xinlei's words were very logical. She, who was born in the Luotian clan of the desolate region, naturally had knowledge and experience that ordinary world overlords couldn't compare to. Let me carefully sense the three sides of the time monument inscription again. Qin Wendian spoke in a light voice. Luo Shenlei replied. Actually, there was still something she didn't say. She also knew about the elementary form of the Tao of Time, but she didn't tell Qin Wendian. Because only by comprehending it yourself would it truly belong to you and you would have a chance to obtain good fortune. Qin Wendian's consciousness entered the time monument inscription again. This time around he was prepared to temporarily give up on the time monument inscription that he couldn't enter. He would treat that time monument inscription as the last one and focus on the other three sides first. He tried again and again, sending his consciousness into different time monument inscriptions. In the end, he relied on the power of the undying scripture. His soul force carried his consciousness and entered the three sides of the time monument inscription at the same time. For a period of time, that strange feeling grew clearer and clearer. Gradually, he could see traces of it, and when he compared it to the other three sides, it wasn't formless. Qin Wendian attempted to use his consciousness to unleash his attacks in the time monument inscription, slashing out sword light. The might of the sword light in the three sides of the time monument inscription were all the same. The speed was also the same. He couldn't sense any difference at all. Time is relative. Qin Wendian mumbled. Even if the flow of time changed, for example in the time realm, there wouldn't be any difference if he attacked in the outside world. Because the flow of time in this entire space was the same. In that case, if I want to make it different, I can only do it in a different flow of time. A thought appeared in Qin Wendian's mind. He closed his eyes and stood up. With a wave of his hand, he directly slashed out a sword at the air. Many people turned their gazes to Qin Wendian. This sword strike was simple and unadorned. There was nothing special about it. This caused many people to have bewildered looks on their faces. This sword strike was too ordinary. There was nothing special about it. Why was there a need to slash it out? But in truth, Qin Wendian was currently using his powerful state of heart to deduce it. When he slashed out with this sword, a sword appeared in each of the three sides of the time monument inscription. This was an external sword strike. Hence, a strange scene appeared. The sword in the first side of the time monument inscription suddenly sped up. The sword in the second side of the time monument inscription slowed down. As for the sword in the third side of the time monument inscription, it directly stopped. As expected, Qin Wendian's heart trembled. The flow of time was truly different. It was just that because time was relative, one wouldn't be able to sense it without a reference. The first side of the time monument inscription sped up the flow of time. The second side of the time monument inscription slowed down the flow of time. As for the third side of the time monument inscription, it stopped the flow of time. No wonder it was so quiet. If that's the case, the Tao of Time has three states: speed up, slow down, and stop. Qin Wendian mumbled. Was this the true meaning that the three sides of the time monument inscription wanted to transmit? In that case, what about the last side of the time monument inscription? Although he could sense that the flow of time in the three sides of the time monument inscription was different, he didn't have an astral soul and it was impossible for him to comprehend the power of time. He lacked attribute energy and had no way to truly change the flow of time. His will flowed towards the fourth side of the time monument inscription. At this instant, the fourth side of the time monument inscription didn't obstruct his will from entering. The four sides of the time monument inscription radiated a resplendent light that shone onto Qin Wendian. At this instant, Qin Wendian felt an incomparably terrifying energy. This energy even caused him to feel fear. It was as though he was shuttling through the river of time. At this instant, time seemed to change. When that feeling vanished, everything seemed to have changed. In this space, there were countless majestic ancient palaces, like a flourishing world. Where is this place? Qin Wendian stared at this foreign scene as his heart pounded unceasingly. That energy was too heaven-defying, so heaven-defying to the point that he couldn't imagine it. It was like it shouldn't exist in this world. This is the past. An ethereal voice drifted over. Qin Wendian's heart pounded violently. This is the past. Do you know what the past is? That voice drifted over again. The ultimate Tao of time, transcending the river of time, reversing the flow of time and returning to the past? Qin Wentian mumbled. What was the past? Only transcendence. Chapter 1786. At this moment, Qin Wentian's heart was extremely restless. Although Old Ghost had emphasized to him how extraordinary the Time Monument inscription was, he didn't dare to imagine that the power of the great Tao contained within the Time Monument inscription would actually be able to reverse time and return to the past. In that case, the identity of the person who did this was very obvious. The Time King, an existence that stood at the peak of the mystic region. This city was named after him, and this world was his cultivation ground. Even in the future, when the three hegemons organized the convention of the myriad realms, the location wasn't the location where the three hegemons were located but was in the Time City instead. From this, one could very well imagine what sort of existence the Time King was. World overlords were already able to control heaven-heart mandates. In that case, what sort of power would heavenly deities have? Transcending time, traveling through the river of time. In the past, Qin Wentian didn't even dare to imagine this. But now, it truly happened to him. Do you know why you came to the past? It was unknown where the ethereal voice came from. Qin Wentian's expression was extremely heavy as he guessed. Because I comprehended the power of the Time Monument inscription and activated it, I was brought here? This is one of the reasons. But how can the Time Monument inscription appear so timely? That person laughed. Transcending time, seeing the past, peering into the future. It isn't that you comprehended the Time Monument inscription, but rather, it has always been waiting for you. The Time Monument inscription is waiting for me? Qin Wentian's heart trembled. Transcending time, peering into the past and the future. This was even more terrifying compared to prophecy, right? In that case, was the Sword Monarch's accomplishments already destined when he comprehended the Time Monument inscription? Was it because the Time King could see the future? Senior, with your capabilities, wouldn't you be unparalleled in the world? Qin Wentian spoke in a light voice. Ah, you are so naive. How can the Tao of the world be as simple as you imagine? Only when you reach my level would you be able to understand. I'm known as the Time King, but can I truly be unparalleled in the world? If I want to reverse time, I can't do it. I also have no way to change this world. My Tao is ultimately limited. I hope that someone can surpass me and truly transcend time. That voice laughed loudly. As expected, it was really the Time King of the mystic region, the Time King. All right, time's up. You can go back. Following that, a beam of light directly hit Qin Wentian's body. At this moment, Qin Wentian felt as if something had entered his body and directly imprinted on his chest. Boom. At this moment, Qin Wentian's body trembled violently as he returned to reality. He was still at his original position on the ancient mountain, maintaining the same posture as before. It was as though everything that had happened was just a dream, and he hadn't experienced anything at all. I'll wait for you in the future. A voice seemed to have traversed through the past and present, directly descending upon the time realm. This voice was illusory as though it didn't exist, yet it was truly transmitted into the ears of everyone. At this instant, within the time realm, the bodies of everyone trembled violently. They opened their eyes and looked up into the void. However, there was nothing there at all. There was no aura at all. There was only a single voice that pierced through time. Who? A major character spoke. Waves of shock rose in his heart. In the time realm, such a voice actually appeared. I'll wait for you in the future. There was no reply. It was impossible for there to be a reply. Qin Wentian stared at the void, feeling incomparably shocked in his heart. In that instant earlier, he actually returned to the past. Also, no one knew that he was the only one who was enveloped by the power of the Time Monument inscription. In that case, was the Time King there the Time King of the past or the Time King of the present? In the air, the 4 Time Monument inscriptions spun rapidly. After that, they transformed into 4 beams of light that illuminated the time realm before vanishing. Is it Senior Time King? A major character asked. There was still no reply. But when that voice rang out and the time monument inscription vanished, they understood that the rumors might be true. That time monument inscription was truly the work of the Time King. Back then, the sword monarch Jian Junlai had indeed inherited the power of the Time King. This was why he soared up into the sky and became the #1 swordsman in the mystic region. In that case, in the Time realm today, who was the person who obtained the Time King's inheritance? I'll wait for you in the future. Who was he referring to? Numerous sharp gazes swept through the crowd, as though they were searching for the person who obtained the inheritance of the Time King. Qing Feng, is it you? In the Samsara temple, an elder transmitted his voice to Bai Qing Feng, a supreme genius of their sect. Nope. Bai Qing Feng replied, causing the elder of the Samsara temple to feel a little disappointed. After that, he felt curious. If it wasn't Bai Qing Feng, who could it be? Could it be a supreme genius from another peak power? He wasn't the only one who had such thoughts. At this moment, many people were asking the most outstanding world overlords of their sections. In the end, they discovered that none of them were the world overlords. Naturally, this was all done through voice transmissions. No one knew about the situation of others because everyone was suspecting others. Who was the one who comprehended the time monument inscription and obtained the favor of the Time King? A major character asked. If there's such good fortune, I believe that person would have a chance to enter the tutelage of a heavenly deity. The hearts of everyone trembled. That's right, someone who obtained the inheritance of the Time King might very well become a sword monarch in the future. It was only normal for someone like Jian Junlai to enter the tutelage of a heavenly deity, right? They didn't believe that the Time King wouldn't be moved. However, there was still no one who admitted it. Their gazes were all staring at the others. At this moment, Qin Wenyan naturally wouldn't admit that he was the one who obtained the inheritance. Although the other party made it sound so nice, saying that he would have a chance to enter the tutelage of a heavenly deity, who knew the truth? The implications of this matter were too great. Because he had personally witnessed the abilities of the Time King, he suspected that even heavenly deities would covet the inheritance. Hence, only a fool would admit it. At this moment he sensed something at his chest. As expected, there was an item there that resembled a rune bone. There were terrifying runes of the great Tao engraved on it, resembling a true Tao bone. Also, it seemed to be a part of his body. As long as he willed it, he would be able to unleash the energy within. However, he didn't dare to use it now as he was worried that others would sense the source of the energy. Senior. At this moment, Qin Wenyan transmitted his voice to the Skybreak heavenly deity in his mind. I'm here. The Skybreak heavenly deity replied. Earlier, the words spoken by the Time King were directed at me. Qin Wenyan spoke. I know. My consciousness is one with yours and I experienced what happened earlier. The voice of the Skybreak heavenly deity was a little agitated. Seems like the undying successor was extraordinary. He was born extraordinary and was destined to have heaven-defying accomplishments in the future. Earlier, that person was a God King character. There's an additional rune bone on my chest. What is that? Qin Wenyan asked. A Tao bone. Your luck is truly too heaven-defying. Only extremely rare characters in the world would have a chance to inherit a Tao bone. Their ancestors must have been God Kings before for there to be such a possibility. As for you, you were bestowed a Tao bone by a God King. The Skybreak heavenly deity sighed. Is that so? Qin Wenyan silently mused. In that case, his luck was truly very good. This might be a Tao bone that was even more valuable compared to his bloodline. Back then, he once heard that the ancestor of the Battle Saint tribe had his Battle Saint bone dug out by someone, causing the strongest inheritance of the tribe to be severed. From this, it seems like the Battle Saint tribe once had a God King character. Also, in his memories, when his father died in his first life, everything in his body was taken away. The other party wanted to seize everything from him, not even sparing his flesh, blood, and bones. Your luck is truly too good. The Skybreak heavenly deity seemed to have thought of something as he laughed uproariously. Before this, we were still discussing what you should choose for your 8th astral soul. Although you have entered the world overlord realm, you have been hesitating. But now, the Tao bone has already been imprinted on your body. It's like a heavenly formation. Do you still need to consider for your 8th astral soul? Qin Wentian's eyes flashed before he smiled. That's right, although he had already entered the world overlord realm, he first comprehended his world heart and heaven heart mandates. Hence, it didn't really matter if he comprehended his astral soul a little later. His will once roamed the 9 heavenly layers, but he kept hesitating. Right now, he was only left with 2 astral souls, and they would decide the ultimate path of his cultivation. Hence, he was very cautious and didn't communicate with them. Right now, it was just like what the Skybreak heavenly deity said. Good fortune descended from the heavens. Everything was fate. With the time Tao bone, maybe I don't need to rely on astral souls and can still use time-attributed energy. Qin Wentian spoke. That's true. However, if you have an astral soul, your attributes would be even stronger. The Tao bone would also amplify your insights into time. The Tao of time has always been something that is extremely difficult to comprehend. You shouldn't miss out on such an opportunity. I suggest you condense a time astral soul first. The Skybreak heavenly deity suggested. Qin Wentian nodded silently. A time astral soul could be used together with other law attributes. If he comprehended a heaven heart mandate and fused it into his world heart, how powerful would that be? Qin Wentian transmitted his voice to Luo Shenlei. Elder brother, what's the matter? Luo Shenlei replied. The legendary first-generation deity of the mystic region, the God King of Time. Are there any records of him in the ancient records of the Luoshan clan? Qin Wentian asked. I've heard a little about it before. The first-generation overlord of the mystic region is equivalent to the peak characters of the 3 hegemonic powers of the mystic region added together. How powerful is he? He's like that existence from the universe region of the Western Paradise. I didn't expect that he really left behind some ruins in the time realm. Luo Shenlei spoke. What happened to the Lord of Time? Qin Wentian asked. I'm not sure about this. There are rumors that he transcended time and headed to the past and the future, prying into the past and present. There are also rumors that he pursued the ultimate Tao of time and gained control over the river of time. Luo Shenlei replied. If that was truly the Time King earlier, I wonder who in the mystic region obtained his good fortune. What sort of existence would the person he is waiting for in the future be? Is another sword monarch going to appear in the mystic region? Luo Shenlei seemed to be mumbling to herself. Qin Wentian smiled. Did not know that the voice was directed at him. Moreover, he did not expect Lei to have heard of the sword monarch. Luo Shenlei didn't know, the others didn't know as well. Other than Qin Wentian himself. The eyes of those major characters flashed as they stared at the crowd. Their immortal senses swept out unceasingly, wanting to find the person who spoke. The Time King was waiting for him in the future. This meant that this person would definitely become a major character in the mystic region in the future. However, they didn't even know who this person was. They also didn't know which genius world overlord from which peak power the Time King would appear. What a pity, I almost comprehended it but someone beat me to it. I wonder which bastard is it. 10 Miles Springwind cursed in a low voice. Qin Wentian had a face filled with black lines. Old Ghost sighed silently in his heart. This time around, did he miss it again? Chao Tian and Phoenix were also staring at the crowd. Just like everyone else, they were guessing who that voice was directed at exactly. Chapter 1787. Just when everyone was guessing, among the many world overlords on the ancient mountain, a young world overlord dressed in long robes turned his gaze to 10 Miles Springwind. He coldly spoke, "Who are you calling a bastard?" Amichem? As the sound of his voice rang out, the gazes of everyone instantly turned over. Earlier, 10 Miles Springwind said that he didn't know which bastard was the first to speak. But now, this young man actually stood out to speak? What did he mean by this? Could it be 10 Miles Springwind also stared at this young man as a strange expression appeared on his face? Could it be that because of his cursing, the main character appeared? Earlier, There was a major character who invited him, but this young man didn't even stand out. Yet, he couldn't endure a single curse from him? You are? Someone asked. He wasn't too familiar with this young man. I'm from the Sun-Moon's sacred mountain. The young man calmly replied. Only now did everyone see the sun and moon diagram on his robes. As for many major characters, they had already guessed the identity of this young man. Now that they heard him personally saying it, their eyes all gleamed with sharpness. They should have long guessed that it might be him. How could they neglect a world overlord from the Sun-Moon's sacred mountain? Who is Old Man Tianshi to you? A major character asked. After that, many people felt shocked in their hearts. Old Man Tianshi, this master of the Sun-Moon's sacred mountain, was an extremely ancient existence. In truth, before the sword monarch Jian Junlai rose up, he was even more famous than Jian Junlai. Also, the energy he was most proficient in was related to time. The power of time, from a certain perspective, wasn't a type of energy, because the power of time alone didn't have any real attacks. However, this mysterious and unfathomable energy had terrifying effects. This was especially so when it fused with other types of energy to comprehend heaven-heart mandates. He's my master. The young man calmly spoke. My name is Yu Changkong. For this convention, I'm here representing the Sun-Moon's sacred mountain. You inherited Old Man Tianshi's time energy? Someone asked. Naturally. Yu Changkong nodded. You comprehended the time monument inscription? Another major character asked. At this moment, this young world overlord who appeared for the first time in the convention became the focus of attention of countless world overlords. The Time King said, I'll wait for you in the future. Was it meant for him? This Yu Changkong, who came from the Sun-Moon's sacred mountain of the mystic region, was destined to become a character at the peak of the mystic region in the future? Out of the 4 sides of the time monument inscription, 3 of them can change the flow of time. They are respectively increasing the flow of time, slowing the flow of time, and stopping the flow of time. As for the last side, it contains the strongest power of time and has the power to traverse the past and future. Earlier, the voice of Senior Time King originated from the future. Yu Changkong spoke frankly with assurance. The sun and moon robes on him fluttered in the wind, exuding magnificence through the generations. He was like the most dazzling star in the sky, attracting the attention of everyone. His future was destined to be extraordinary. One couldn't help but say that his analysis was very close to the truth. He who originally possessed time-attributed energy could sense the change in the flow of time in the 3 sides of the time monument inscription. This wasn't too difficult. As for the last side of the monument, he deduced it purely based on the words of the Time Realm Lord. However, everyone involuntarily believed him because his analysis was completely logical and it also matched with the voice of the Time King. In addition, only he stood out to speak. In that case, other than him, who else could it be? A strange expression appeared on Qin Wentian's face as he stared at the world overlord named Yu Changkong. This man's aura was extraordinary. Even when he was lying, he still exuded elegance. Because no one wanted to admit it, he might as well stand out and pretend to be someone else. What power is the Sun-Moon's sacred mountain? Qin Wentian transmitted his voice to 10 Miles Spring Wind as he asked. The Sun-Moon's sacred mountain is a major power in the mystic region. Although they aren't as large as the Samsara Temple or the Clear Sky God Mountain, no one would dare to antagonize them because Old Man Tianshi from the Sun-Moon's sacred mountain is extremely powerful. Right now, the Time King's inheritance was obtained by the successor of the Sun-Moon's sacred mountain. This would undoubtedly be like adding wings to a tiger. What a pity! 10 Miles Spring Wind spoke in a depressed manner. He originally has an extraordinary background. If he lied and said that he obtained the favor of the Time King, he would undoubtedly be able to soar up into the heavens. In fact, he might even gain the favor of some hegemonic powers. However, there's also a risk. Qin Wentian stared at Yu Changkong. This person was truly gutsy and scheming. Naturally, Qin Wentian wouldn't step out to expose this imposter. He was different from this imposter. His background was originally very sensitive and in addition, he didn't have a powerful background in the mystic region to support him. If he admitted to it, he would undoubtedly be placing himself in an extremely dangerous situation. As for the ending, it would depend on the mood of those peak characters. He might gain the favor of those peak characters, but naturally he might also end up in a miserable state. He didn't forget the deeds of the ancestor of the Battle Saint tribe. He had the Dao bone of a heavenly deity. It was a supreme treasure. However, this imposter Yu Changkong didn't have such worries. He could fabricate other reasons and gain some insights. Hence, their situations were different. Since someone was willing to step out and pretend to be Yu Changkong, he was happy to watch from the side. In the future, no one would notice him. In the future, if he revealed the power of time, it would be because he also had this type of astral soul. It wouldn't be strange at all. Yu Changkong's words caused him to become the focal point of the convention. The major characters from the various powers all walked up to him. Some congratulated him, some admired him, some tried to rope him in. At this moment, a major character from a hegemonic power laughed. "I've once met with old man Tianshi. Now that I've met virtuous nephew, I'm sure your master would be happy that you have such accomplishments in the future. After the convention ends, you would have a chance to reach even higher heights." Many thanks for senior's words. Yu Changkong was neither servile nor overbearing. He smiled with gratitude. "You can just refer to me as uncle. There's no need to treat me as an outsider." That major character laughed. "In that case, your nephew will accept it." Yu Changkong changed his words. He also knew that at this moment he should maintain a good relationship with the major powers. This would only be beneficial to him and prevent these people from having designs on him. "I didn't expect to be fortunate enough to be able to hear the Time King's voice, and it even came from the future. Realm Lord Changkong's comprehension abilities are extraordinary. In the future, you would definitely become a character like the Sword Monarch." Dong Huang-ing walked up and smiled. Her charm was extraordinary. Not only was her talent outstanding, she was also proficient in winning over people's hearts. The elders beside her all trusted her to do things for her. "Little princess praises me too much. Little princess is already an Empyrean at such a young age and would step into the world overlord realm sooner or later. I wonder who would be lucky enough to win little princess's heart in the future. How envious." Yu Changkong smiled, praising Dong Huang-ying's beauty. There seemed to be a hidden meaning in his words, causing the genius young man beside Dong Huang-ying to stare warily at him. Dong Huang-ying's beautiful face blushed, making her look even more beautiful and captivating. "This woman is very powerful. It's the same as how she tried to rope you in back then. Now, she is trying to rope in Yu Changkong as well, fully utilizing the advantage of her beauty. Given her personality, how would she blush so easily?" 10 Miles Springwind transmitted his voice to Qin Wenyan. Dong Huang-ying truly has some tricks up her sleeves. In addition to her beauty, it's easy for people to have a favorable impression of her. Qin Wenyan replied. "This Yu Changkong is also very scheming." His words caused one's imagination to run wild. Given his talent and identity as Old Man Tianshi's successor, in addition to the Time King's inheritance, if he has a chance to become the son-in-law of the Donghuang Heavens, no one would dare to touch him. The experts of the mystic region would only watch as he grows stronger. 10 Miles Springwind spoke. Qin Wenyan naturally knew this. From the time Yu Changkong impersonated the Time King's inheritance, he could already tell how scheming Yu Changkong was. Qin Wenyan was thinking that if Yu Changkong really wanted to become the son-in-law of the Donghuang Heavens, should he remind Dong Huang-ying? The Time Monument inscription has vanished. The next opportunity wouldn't appear so quickly. I'll return first to cultivate. Qin Wenyan glanced at the lively crowd as he spoke. 10 Miles Springwind and the others nodded. They didn't want to join in the fun. Later I'll return first. Qin Wenyan transmitted his voice over. Luo Shenlei replied, I'll return as well. After speaking, Qin Wenyan quietly departed. Compared to the commotion over at Yu Changkong's place, no one cared about his departure. After returning, Qin Wenyan quietly cultivated, comprehending the power of the Dao bone. In the palace, he sealed the space around him and sat there with his eyes closed. A formless power of time circulated around his chest, causing the flow of time in this entire space to be different from the flow of time in the external world. This Dao bone contained an extraordinary power of time and was extremely powerful, possessing an unfathomable might. As Qin Wenyan comprehended it, he also attempted to infuse the time energy into his world heart and heaven heart mandate. In the future, he would definitely comprehend an even stronger heaven heart mandate. After he exited this place, he would condense an astral soul and condense an astral soul. The palace that Qin Wenyan was in was very quiet. But during this period of time, Qin Wenyan's name has already resounded throughout the convention. There were countless visitors and he became a famous person, maintaining a very friendly relationship with the various peak powers. 10 Miles Springwind would occasionally chat with Qin Wenyan via voice transmission. He said that as expected, Qin Wenyan was scheming and had the intention to express goodwill to Dong Huang-ing, causing the flower protector beside Dong Huang-ing to be unhappy. The two of them almost erupted into a conflict but were stopped by Dong Huang-ing. 10 Miles Springwind guessed that in the end, Dong Huang-ing might give up on the flower protector and choose to be close to Qin Wenyan. After all, Yu Changkong's potential was boundless. The God King was waiting for him in the future. Why haven't I seen Brother Qin during these days? Coincidentally, today, Dong Huang-ing sent a voice transmission to Qin Wenyan. Right now, both of them could be considered friends. Given Dong Huang-ying's methods of winning people's hearts, she naturally had to maintain this relationship frequently. Qin Wenyan took out his messaging crystal and hesitated a little. After that, he asked, "I heard that little princess has been very busy recently. There seems to be a genius pursuing you. Little princess, are you moved? Could it be that Brother Qin is jealous?" Dong Huang-ing giggled. "Little princess has met my wife before. How would I have any improper thoughts?" Qin Wenyan smiled. "Little princess, what do you think of Yu Changkong? He's a dragon among humans, exuding boundless magnificence and unparalleled talent. Right now, there are already people speculating that he might be able to join a heavenly deity's tutelage." Dong Huang-ying's evaluation of Yu Changkong was very high. However, when I saw him talking to little princess for the first time, he already mentioned his heart. His words seem a little inappropriate, it's a little frivolous. It's hard to ascertain his character. Qin Wenyan reminded. He initially didn't want to interfere in this matter, but since Dong Huang-ing said that they were friends, he had to remind her no matter what. A strange expression appeared on Dong Huang-ying's face. After that, she smiled. "Brother Qin, if you aren't jealous, I'm even suspecting that you are jealous of him stealing your limelight. However, Brother Qin has already unleashed his 13 heaven heart mandates. Who doesn't know of your talent? Even for a supreme character like Yu Changkong, it's impossible for him to mask Brother Qin's talent. There's no need to compete with him." Dong Huang-ing seemed to be consoling Qin Wenyan, telling Qin Wenyan not to compete with Yu Changkong in terms of talent. She felt that Qin Wenyan was jealous of Yu Changkong. Chapter 1788. Qin Wenyan was somewhat speechless. Dong Huang-ing even intentionally praised his talent. It's just that she didn't want him to compare himself to Yu Changkong. Clearly, she felt that Yu Changkong was more outstanding even though Qin Wenyan had released 13 heaven heart mandates. In truth, Yu Changkong was truly a character with supreme talent. His attainments in the Tao of Time were very high. If not, no matter how gutsy he was, he wouldn't dare to impersonate the Time King. If his talent wasn't high enough, it would be very easy for him to be exposed. Would the Time King choose a mediocre character? During these days, Yu Changkong had also intentionally displayed his talent, attracting the attention of many world overlords in the convention of the myriad realms. No wonder Dong Huang-ing would say this. "Little princess, I don't have the intention to compare myself to him. I'm just stating the facts. It's fine if you admire his talent, but if you want to get closer to him, you still have to observe his character." Qin Wenyan reminded again. "Enough, Brother Qin. I naturally understand this. There will still be good fortune after the convention of the myriad realms. Brother Qin, you have to work hard." Dong Huang-ing smiled, intentionally changing the topic. Clearly, she didn't place Qin Wenyan's words in her heart. Since she intentionally didn't want to talk about this matter, Qin Wendian naturally wouldn't keep talking about it. He could only reply, let's hope that there's good fortune. Little princess, I'm going to cultivate now. There's no need to reply. After speaking, Qin Wendian kept his messaging crystal and bitterly smiled as he shook his head. He has already reminded Dong Huang-ing. If Dong Huang-ing took his words to heart, she would naturally be more alert. But if she didn't take his words to heart, there was nothing he could do about it. He only said this much, he didn't even tell 10 Miles Springwind and the others about the Dao Bone. He naturally wouldn't tell Dong Huang-ing about this. In terms of relationship, they were much closer compared to Dong Huang-ing. Naturally, this matter was a secret to him, but to 10 Miles Springwind and the others, it wasn't important at all. Hence, he didn't intentionally hide this from them. Maybe, I'm thinking too much. Qin Wendian mumbled. Even if Dong Huang-ing ended up together with Yu Changkong, most probably given Dong Huang-ying's status, Yu Changkong wouldn't do anything to her and would still treat her well. Also, Yu Changkong himself had extraordinary talent and was naturally a good candidate for Dong Huang-ing. Why was he worrying here? The three hegemonic powers of the mystic region were Ziwei Divine Court, Great Devil Divine Palace, and Heavenly Deity Mountain. The Eastern Royal Immortal Realms was a vassal of the Ziwei Divine Court. Their background was extremely powerful. It's just that if Dong Huang-ing fantasized that Yu Changkong would be like the Sword Monarch back then, challenging heavenly deities on the Heavenly Deity Mountain, this was most probably impossible. How many people in the world could achieve such a feat? Qin Wendian didn't think too much about this. He continued to immerse himself in cultivation. The commotion in the outside world seemed to have nothing to do with him. He came to participate in the convention of the myriad realms because he wanted to broaden his horizons with the various world overlords of the mystic region. He wanted to walk out of the Qingqing realm. Right now, in the convention, he met Luotian Lei and learned that his mother's clan was the Luotian clan. He also learned that his father's clan was in the Heaven region. He even saw the mysterious abilities of the Time King, able to peer into the past and the future, and even obtain the Dao Bone of a heavenly deity. To him, this convention of the myriad realms could already be considered a great harvest. He was very satisfied. Right now, other than cultivating, he also hoped that he would be able to meet his uncle who was rushing over here. Naturally, the flow of time in the time realm was different from the outside world. Maybe a few years might pass in here, but only a few days might pass in the outside world. There was no need to be anxious. Today, the time realm suddenly trembled. Qin Wendian, who was cultivating in his palace, could sense the rumbling of the heavens and earth. He opened his eyes, gleaming with sharpness. After that, he walked out of the palace and stared into the distance. He saw an incomparably majestic, gigantic mountain descending from the sky, directly enveloping the ancient mountain he was on earlier. This mountain was even more majestic. It was impossible to climb it. The entire mountain was glowing with light, incomparably dazzling. There was actually a crystalline luster circulating around the ancient mountain. Heavenly Deity Mountain. In the time realm, many people exclaimed in shock. This mountain seemed to have the shadow of the Heavenly Deity Mountain. Those major characters understood that the good fortune of the Heavenly Deity Mountain has descended. They could enter the time realm to search for good fortune. Just when the many world overlords were in an uproar, the heavens and earth trembled once more. In the airspace above the time realm, devil might churned wildly, resembling an apocalyptic world. After that, a demonic platform descended from the sky, floating in the air, exuding an unparalleled pressure. On this demonic platform, there was a demonic throne. On the throne, there was a supreme demonic treasure, the demonic armor. Beside the throne, there was also a demonic spear, exuding a heaven-shaking pressure. The Great Devil Divine Battle Platform of the Great Devil Divine Palace. Another person felt his heart pounding. He knew the meaning behind the appearance of this devil platform. The experts of the Great Devil Divine Palace loved to battle. They had always been famous for their combat prowess, believing in iron-blooded combat strength. Everyone naturally understood the meaning behind this devil platform descending in the time realm. This was a platform meant for participants of the convention of the myriad realms. Beside it, the treasures of the victors would surely be extremely terrifying. Sadly, to the vast majority of people, this was nothing more than wishful thinking. The treasures of the great Devil Divine Palace were things that even major characters would want to fight for. Ordinary world overlords and even transcendent-level world overlords wouldn't have a chance. Maybe they could only head to the Heavenly Deity Mountain to search for good fortune. The appearance of the Heavenly Deity Mountain and the Great Devil Divine Battle Platform caused the entire Time realm to tremble. However, this hasn't concluded yet, because the three hegemonic powers of the convention of the myriad realms would always act together. Right now, there was no movement from the Z-Way Divine Court. Just when this thought appeared in the minds of people, in the boundless starry space, an incomparably resplendent beam of light suddenly shone down, resembling the light of a constellation. The Z-Way star had always been known as the Emperor constellation and was incomparably exalted. At this moment, an incomparably dazzling imperial light descended from the sky. Next, the light of the constellations descended. In the void of the light realm, a sea of constellations appeared. In the center of the sea, there were 4 constellations that shone the brightest. Each constellation interweaved into the shape of a human, an illusory figure that was blurry. In the next instant, the light from the sea of constellations illuminated the entire time realm, shining on the bodies of every expert. After that, the faces of the experts of the convention of the myriad realms could be seen on the 4 constellations. However, the faces of the world overlords only flashed for an instant, changing constantly. Many people stared at this strange scene. Could it be that the faces of every world overlord would be reflected in the constellation sea? But in reality, this wasn't the case. When the light from the constellation ocean shone on the bodies of many people, it only lasted for an instant. Their appearances weren't imprinted in the constellation ocean. Only when the light shone on some young world overlords would their appearances be imprinted in the human-shaped constellation ocean. Qin Wenyan, who was standing in the palace, naturally didn't escape the light from the constellation sea as well. When the light shone on him, his face in the air flickered for an instant. After that, he felt the light from the constellations shining on him. There seemed to be a mysterious energy summoning him, wanting him to head to the constellation sea. What a mysterious energy! Qin Wenyan silently mused. The Heavenly Deity Mountain, Great Devil Battle Platform, Constellation Sea. Behind them, there were the silhouettes of 3 hegemonic powers. The peak powers of the mystic region, the Heavenly Deity Mountain, Great Devil Divine Palace, and Z-Way Divine Court. The convention of the myriad realms was a grand event of the peak of the mystic region. How could the 3 hegemonic powers of the mystic region not be present? This was also the source of the rallying power of the convention of the myriad realms. Countless world overlords rushed here from all over the mystic region to participate in this event. Elder brother, I saw you. Luo Shenlei's voice rang out in Qin Wenyan's mind. I saw you too. My figure flashed by in the constellation sea. Qin Wenyan took out his messaging crystal as he spoke. Seems like for this convention, the Z-Way Divine Court is still biased towards the younger generations. Their target is very clear, excluding the world overlords of the older generations. In this constellation sea, there are 4 human-shaped shadows. This means that they might be able to select the 4 most outstanding geniuses from the younger generations. Maybe they might have a chance to join the Z-Way Divine Court. Luo Shenlei guessed. Elder brother, if you participate, there shouldn't be a problem. You would definitely be able to join the Z-Way Divine Court. Join the Z-Way Divine Court? Qin Wenyan mumbled. For some reason, he didn't have such thoughts towards the hegemonic powers of the mystic region. Maybe it was because he had obtained the undying inheritance, or maybe it was because he didn't trust those hegemonic powers. He was still filled with reverence towards those lofty hegemonic powers. However, reverence didn't represent trust. To him, those hegemonic powers were completely foreign to him. He didn't understand them, it was naturally hard for him to trust them. In addition, the hatred he bore might implicate the heavenly deity race of the heaven region. The Great Devil Divine Palace is as tyrannical and direct as ever. They provided the Great Devil Divine Battle Platform, allowing you to fight to your heart's content. The rewards have already been prepared, just waiting for you to come and collect them. This is the usual style of the Great Devil Divine Palace. Luo Shenlei laughed. The Heavenly Deity Mountain is still fond of such superficial things. No wonder they are ranked last among the 3 hegemonic powers of the Mystic region. However, I can enter and see what's inside. Lei, do you think I should join a Heavenly Deity power? Qin Wendian suddenly asked. On the other side, Luo Shenlei fell silent. Qin Wendian's situation was extremely complicated. No one was clearer than her on this point. For the Luoshan clan side, if they were of one mind, things would naturally be easy. Her elder brother can directly head to the Luoshan clan. However, the Luoshan clan originally had a different view of what happened in the past. If Qin Wendian went to the Luoshan clan, she didn't know if it would be good or bad. Also, over there, Qin Wendian's enemies were extremely powerful. She was very clear that it was impossible for the 3 hegemonic powers of the Mystic region to stand out against them for Qin Wendian. Hence, Luo Shenlei didn't know how to reply to this question. After a long period of silence, she replied, "Elder brother, you can decide for yourself. In any case, no matter what, I will stand on your side." Qin Wendian smiled and nodded. Although he didn't ask Luo Shenlei about the Luoshan clan situation, he could faintly guess a little in his heart. Naturally, he still had to wait until he met his uncle before he could clarify everything. In this convention, was he going to release his own radiance? Chapter 1789. Qin Wendian was still thinking if he should display his brilliance or not when he saw that there were already people making their moves. A figure transformed into a beam of light, directly appearing in the constellation C created by the Ziwei Divine Court. This person was clad in robes that fluttered in the wind. Astral light revolved around him, incomparably resplendent. This person was none other than Old Man Tianchu's disciple, Yu Changkong. He seemed to be somewhat impatient. He pretended to have obtained the Time King's inheritance and maintained a good relationship with the major powers. What was his ultimate goal? There was no need to doubt that it was to enter the strongest power in the Mystic region, or even become a disciple of a heavenly deity. The Great Devil Divine Palace wasn't suitable for him. The Heavenly Deity Mountain was the weakest among the 3 hegemonic powers. The Ziwei Divine Court was undoubtedly his first choice. And now, the Ziwei Divine Court just so happened to set up the constellation C, shining its light on the young geniuses. This was simply an opportunity bestowed by the heavens. How could he miss it? When he descended upon the Sea of Constellations, one of the constellation mansions gradually transformed into his figure, as though he was the master of the constellation mansions. Bai Qingfeng from the Samsara Temple and Li Xiao from the Clear Sky God Mountain both moved, occupying a constellation. The young genius beside Dong Huangying also wanted to compete when he saw Yu Changkong acting. His silhouette also flashed, occupying a constellation. In just an instant, the 4 constellations in the constellation C were all occupied by someone. However, the light from the constellation C didn't disappear. It continued shining its light on the young geniuses of the Time Realm, as though summoning them, wanting them to challenge the position of the Constellation Lord. Yu Changkong is truly unwilling to pass on this responsibility. Little Yu seems to be a little impatient. Seems like jealousy is harmful. An older world overlord from the Eastern Royal Immortal Realm spoke. He was Dong Huangying's elder and naturally knew what little Yu was thinking. The young man's name was Xiao Yu. He was the disciple of a good friend of his. This good friend of his was also an extraordinary character who lived in seclusion in the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms. Little Yu's temperament isn't bad, but when he encountered Little Ying's matter, it's inevitable that he would be impatient. The 4 constellation lords are probably as many as the clouds. Now that he has occupied a region, it would be extremely difficult for him to hold on until the end. There are too many world overlords from the major powers eyeing him covetously. An old man at the side spoke. As for Yu Changkong, he is still confident. I wonder if he can continue to occupy the constellation divine seat. For the Ziwei divine court, let's leave it to the younger generation to compete. As for the great devil divine battle platform, the two treasures on the Devil King throne might be extremely powerful divine weapons. Do you want to compete for them? It's even more difficult. The eyes of the experts from the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms gleamed with sharpness. With so many major characters from the various peak powers here, it would be extremely difficult to obtain the #1 position on the Great Devil Battle platform. It's true that many old fellows haven't sparred for many years. Someone at the side laughed. However, if they were to be defeated like this, it would be too shameful. This Great Devil Divine Palace was truly too direct, not giving any face to the major characters. In any case, they should at least be a little more secretive. If they were defeated, everyone would be able to see it. The Chao clan will definitely fight for it. The ruling clan of the Scarlet Sun Immortal Realms, the Chao clan, was precisely a vassal clan of the Great Devil Divine Palace. In truth, the convention this time around was also a competition between the vassals of the three hegemonic powers. In the direction of the Heavenly Deity Mountain, many people headed towards the Ancient Mountain. It seemed that there would be good fortune there. Qin Wenyin quietly sat there and watched everything. 10 Miles Spring Wind glanced over. Among us, only Wenyin can contend for the position of the Constellation Lord. I'm afraid we can only head to the Heavenly Deity Mountain to take a look. Because they were too old, the Constellation Lords of the Ziwei Divine Court had nothing to do with them. They couldn't contend for the Great Devil Battle platform. Hence, their only choice was to head to the Heavenly Deity Mountain. Wenyin, which Constellation Lord do you want to contend for? How about you Changkong's Constellation Lord? Chao Tian glanced at Qin Wenyin and smiled. I won't contend anymore. Qin Wenyin smiled in reply. He had already made his decision. He wouldn't contend anymore. It was fine for him to just watch the excitement of the convention. This time around, the purpose of him coming here was to broaden his horizons. Even if he was just a spectator, it would still be extremely fascinating. In addition, he already had a great harvest this time around. If he continued to contend, he would definitely enter the sights of the hegemonic powers. At that time, if the hegemonic powers invited him, should he agree or reject? He was in a dilemma. Not contending? The few of them stared at Qin Wenyin in astonishment. This fellow was really open-minded. However, everyone has their own ambitions. They wouldn't say anything. They only felt that it was a pity. Qin Wenyin still had a chance to contend. His talent was very high and his combat prowess had yet to fully erupt before. He might not necessarily lose to those geniuses from the hegemonic powers. Elder brother, seems like you have already made your decision. Luo Shenlei smiled as she transmitted her voice over. Qin Wenyin transmitted his voice back. He had already decided to give up on this opportunity. At this moment, there was already a figure flashing by, challenging the Constellation Lord position arranged by the Ziwei Divine Court. This person was also a world overlord from a hegemonic power. He was challenging the Constellation Lord position occupied by Li Xiao. Li Xiao was a disciple of the Clear Sky God Mountain. Once, the Clear Sky God Mountain was a heavenly deity-level power, but now, it has already declined. This person wanted to see how strong Li Xiao was. The space in the constellation sea was extremely vast, like a constellation world. Each of the 4 constellation regions was like a boundless world, able to support a battle between world overlords. How could the Ziwei Divine Court not be able to do this? When that expert entered the constellation space occupied by Li Xiao's world heart enveloped him. Numerous world gates appeared and from within, ferocious clear sky divine energy gushed forth, resembling bolts of desolate lightning, wanting to shatter everything. That challenger's expression changed when he sensed the might. However, Li Xiao naturally wanted to establish his might by defeating someone first. A disciple of the Clear Sky God Mountain was the first to be challenged. This was a humiliation to him. Godly punishment lightning descended from the world gates. They were like illusory chains that slashed down on the challenger's body, shattering his body and dispersing his soul. Boom. Below, the auras of an expert from a major power gushed forth. His eyes were cold as he stared at Li Xiao in the constellation sea. One of them roared in anger, "Li Xiao, you are actually so ruthless." Li Xiao calmly glanced down. He didn't say anything, but an expert from the clear sky god mountain spoke. With such strength, he actually went up to embarrass himself and even wanted to occupy the Constellation Lord position. If we don't kill him, what's the point of leaving him alive? You guys are ruthless. That expert from the other side coldly spoke. The moment he appeared, he was already filled with anger. Seems like all the experts here were determined to obtain the positions of the 4 Constellation Lords. Next, someone challenged Xiao Yu. This Xiao Yu's strength was also extraordinary and he defeated his opponent. Another person went up to contest for the position of Yu Changkong. After Yu Changkong released his world heart, a terrifying desolate intent gushed forth. It was like moonlight cascading down, directly immobilizing his opponent. After that, a terrifying beam of light flashed, so fast that even immortal senses couldn't capture it. It directly left a line of blood on his opponent's neck, but he didn't kill him. "Thank you for letting me win." Yu Changkong's demeanor was extraordinary. He clasped his hands and spoke humbly. "A true dragon has appeared on the Sun Moon's sacred mountain. I'm completely convinced that I lost to you." That genius clasped his hands. Yu Changkong could have killed him directly, yet he showed mercy. This naturally caused him to have a favorable impression of him. Upon seeing this scene, the experts from the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms nodded. A dragon among men, this disciple of Old Man Tianshi was low profile before this. The battle here was extremely fascinating, but no one went up to the devil battle platform. Clearly, those major characters all had trepidation. "Later, I'll return first." Qin Wenyan transmitted his voice. "You don't want to watch any more?" Luo Shenlei asked. "I should be able to see it from my palace." Qin Wenyan smiled. After that, he silently departed. However, he didn't attract too much attention. Right now, the gazes of everyone were on the constellation sea. After returning to his palace, Qin Wenyan closed his eyes in cultivation. His perception soared upwards, all the way to the 9 heavenly layers. The time realm was an extremely special place. Although this place seemed to be isolated from the outside world and had a different flow of time, it wasn't isolated from the 9 heavenly layers. Or more accurately, the 9 heavenly layers were extremely wondrous. Right now, the battle over there was extremely intense and no one would notice him. He could use this chance to condense his 8th astral soul. Boundless astral light cascaded down from the 9 heavenly layers. It was extremely beautiful. Qin Wenyan's perception continued to soar upwards, all the way to the peak of the 8th heavenly layer. An indescribably immense pressure bore down on him, like heavenly might, inviolable. However, Qin Wenyan still persisted. The 7 astral souls he had were all from the 8th heavenly layer. As for his 8th astral soul, he hoped to condense it into the 9th heavenly layer. Boom! An incomparably powerful pressure bore down on his consciousness. Qin Wenyan gritted his teeth, enduring the pressure as he continued to soar upwards. However, a surge of heavenly might bore down on him, directly destroying his consciousness. This caused his true body in the time realm to groan in pain. However, he didn't give up just like that. He continued to break through and finally, after many days, his consciousness finally reached the 9th astral river. Over here, there were only a few constellations, and the distance between them was extremely far. Each constellation was extremely dazzling. Time. Qin Wenyan had already comprehended the time-attributed energy. His consciousness directly searched for it, enduring the incomparable pressure. His consciousness floated to an illusory astral river. This constellation was like a long river, piercing through the 9 heavenly layers as it flowed downwards unceasingly. Qin Wenyan's consciousness directly entered the astral river, attaching itself to it. In the next instant, the astral river flowed downwards from the 9 heavenly layers, connecting the heavens and earth. A beam of astral light from the astral river directly landed on Qin Wenyan's body in the time realm. At this instant, Although the attention of everyone was attracted by the constellation C and the Devil Battle platform, there were still characters with powerful senses who turned their gazes in the direction where Qin Wenyan was at. Over there was an extremely powerful astral energy. In the air, there seemed to be a beam of astral light piercing through the heavens and earth. Chapter 1790. Some of the major characters who were spectating the battle all turned their gazes in the direction of Qin Wenyan's palace. They could sense that the astral energy descending from the heavens was extremely powerful. There's actually someone who condensed an astral soul. They were all extremely shocked. In the time realm, they clearly didn't believe that someone had broken through to the heavenly deity realm. Most probably, this person had condensed an eighth astral soul at the world overlord realm. Powerful immortal senses gushed out, ignoring the distance between them. The immortal senses of several major characters directly landed on the palace Qin Wenyan was in. At this moment, Qin Wenyan didn't reveal his newly condensed astral soul. He opened his eyes and stood up. He could sense the immortal senses of these people landing on him as he silently sighed in his heart at how tyrannical the strength of these people were. His immortal sense wasn't able to cover such a great distance. Luckily, there weren't many immortal senses and they were only from major characters. It's actually him. After the immortal senses saw Qin Wenyan, many people were shocked. Before this, Qin Wenyan unleashed 13 Heaven Heart mandates and insta-killed the genius world overlord of the Dragon Pool Manor, Long Yuan Haoyu. They naturally knew of him. But such an extraordinary world overlord actually hasn't condensed his eighth astral soul and only condensed it now? What did this mean? This meant that Qin Wenyan hasn't been in the world overlord realm for long. Also, when he condensed his 13 Heaven Heart mandates earlier, he hadn't fused the newly condensed astral energy into them yet. They naturally understood what this meant. This meant that Qin Wenyan could directly condense his world heart and condense a transcendental world heart before he condensed a Heaven Heart mandate. In that case, the reason why he condensed so many Heaven Heart mandates wasn't because he wanted to waste time pursuing quantity. Rather, it was because he wanted to condense a transcendental world heart. The expression of Yu Changkong, who was currently occupying a constellation lord position in the constellation C, also froze. He turned his gaze towards the distance. Earlier he sensed a familiar energy. That was the power of time. At their level of cultivation, their senses were extremely sharp. There was no way he would be wrong. At this moment, the power of time descended from the sky. Yu Changkong couldn't help but think of some things. After all, only he knew that when the Time King said, "I'll be waiting for you in the future," it wasn't meant for him. Right now, everyone thought that it was him and they were no longer curious. But as a fake, he wanted to know who the true inheritor of the Time King's inheritance was the most. He wanted to find that person or he would feel very uncomfortable being stared at. That person must be mocking him in the dark and he had no idea when he would be exposed. To him, this was a hidden danger. "What's wrong?" someone asked when he saw the strange expression on the big shots' faces. "Nothing much. It's just that the young world overlord who released 13 Heaven Heart mandates just condensed an astral soul from his constellation." That person spoke in a low voice. "What? Isn't he already a transcendent level world overlord? He has only condensed his 8th constellation now?" Someone had a strange look on his face. Seems like this young man's talent is truly impressive. That major character nodded. Many people started to discuss and very soon, many people knew about this. In the direction of the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms, a major character from the Donghuang clan spoke to Donghuang Ying. "Your judgment isn't bad. That Qingcheng Realm Lord has just condensed his 8th constellation. In the future, he would definitely have extraordinary accomplishments and might even have a place in the Mystic Region." How vast was the Mystic Region? If one could have a place in the Mystic Region, it meant that one would become a peak world overlord. This evaluation was already very high. That's only natural. Dong Huanging smiled. However, when compared to Yu Changkong, who obtained the Time King's inheritance, he is still slightly inferior. In the future, Yu Changkong might have a chance to stand shoulder to shoulder with the Sword Monarch. Do your best to maintain a good relationship with him. That major character spoke. I know. Dong Huangying nodded. Xiao Yu, who was at the side, had a look of desolation on his face. He was the same as Yu Changkong. He was the first to step out and occupy one of the 4 constellation lords. But in the end he was defeated and expelled by someone else. Yu Changkong was still there, radiating brilliance and unparalleled talent. Not only so, out of the 4 constellation lords, only Yu Changkong was kicked out. Yu Changkong, Bai Qingfeng and Li Xiao still occupied one of the 4 constellation lords. At the location Qin Wenyan was at, he could sense several strands of immortal sense descending upon him. After that, they all retreated. However, in the airspace above the palace, a figure appeared. It was none other than that old man from the Heavenly Tao Sacred Academy. He smiled at Qin Wenyan. To think that you have only condensed your 8th astral soul. Given how powerful the astral energy fluctuations are, it should be a high-grade one. Can I ask what attribute it has? Replying to Senior, it's the time attribute. Qin Wenyan replied. This wasn't considered a secret. In the future, he would have to use the time attribute sooner or later. If he admitted it now, no one would suspect anything. Time attribute, a very powerful law energy. However, it's also extremely hard to comprehend. I didn't expect you to choose the time attribute. The old man mumbled. Qin Wenyan smiled. I've heard the rumors about the Time King. Earlier, I also saw the appearance of the 4-sided time monument inscription and knew that the Time King is a supreme expert who can travel to the past and the future. My heart was filled with reverence for him and hence, I wanted to comprehend the time attribute energy. No wonder you didn't even bother to pay attention to the most exciting moments of the convention and chose to stay here to cultivate. The old man smiled and shook his head. Are you not going to fight for a seat among the 4 constellation lords? The experts in the convention are as many as the clouds and there are countless world overlords. I'll just take a look. Qin Wenyan has already thought it through. He wouldn't participate in this in case he attracted the attention of the other hegemonic powers. Especially the 3 hegemonic powers. Your personality. The old man speechlessly shook his head. After that, his silhouette gradually turned illusory and vanished. After he left, many people came over. Mo Qingqing, Qinga, Princess Kitamura and the others all came. Many people had smiles on their faces. Qin Wenyan has finally condensed his 8th astral soul and it was actually a time attribute one. Such an extraordinary astral soul was extremely rare. In fact, they had never sensed such an astral soul in the 9 heavenly layers before. Most probably, it should be in the higher heavenly layers. Why are all of you looking at me like that? Qin Wenyan couldn't help but to shrug and smile when he saw the gazes of everyone. Wenyan Gij, you have comprehended the time attribute energy. In the future, would you be able to create a world similar to the time realm? Changing the flow of time? In that case, we would be able to save a lot of time when we cultivate there. Bai Qing laughed lightly. Qin Wenyan rolled his eyes. I just condensed an astral soul. How can I be so powerful? Bai Qing giggled when she heard this. She stared at her Wenyan Gij who was getting more and more outstanding. Do you guys want to go to the convention to take a look? Right now, the Ziwei Divine Court, Great Devil Divine Palace and Heavenly Deity Mountain all have good fortune descending and it's extremely lively there. Although we can't participate, I can bring you guys there to take a look. Qin Wenyan spoke. With him by their side, there was no need to worry about any accidents happening to them. The Dragon Pool Manor feared Lei and wouldn't dare to act recklessly. Qin Wenyan also didn't have any other enemies. Right, I also want to go there to take a look. The Southern Phoenix matriarch spoke in a light voice. She was very interested in the battles between transcendent-level world overlords. It was just that it wasn't appropriate for her to take the initiative to ask Qin Wenyan to bring her there. Now that Qin Wenyan's cultivation base was getting higher and higher, she had to step into the world overlord realm as soon as possible. Many people nodded in agreement. Qin Wenyan smiled. He brought everyone and came to the central area of the time realm. They sat down at a place not far away from the heavenly deity mountain and quietly watched. Qingqing Realm Lord. Many people glanced in the direction of Qin Wenyan. They already knew that earlier, Qin Wenyan condensed his 8th astral soul after he stepped into the world overlord realm. Many people's gazes were now different when they looked at him. The gazes of the Dragon Pool Manor were naturally cold. The more outstanding Qin Wenyan was, the more unhappy they were. However, Qin Wenyan and his group kept a low profile. They only watched the battles on the Devil Battle platform and in the Constellation Ocean. Regardless of the battles between supreme experts or young world overlords, they were all so powerful that it caused people to sigh in amazement. This was especially so for the Devil Battle platform. The scene there was simply too terrifying. However, it was rare to see a battle on that platform even after a few days. After some time, 10 Miles Springwind, Old Ghost and the other 3 exited the heavenly deity mountain. Upon seeing Qin Wenyan, who was staying in a remote corner, he immediately came over and asked, "You really don't intend to participate?" "That's right." Qin Wenyan smiled and nodded. "What about you guys? Did you guys gain anything from the heavenly deity mountain? There are many good things we can comprehend inside and we gain some benefits. However, we definitely can't compare to the 4 constellation lords in the Constellation Ocean or the number 1 expert on the Devil Battle platform." 10 Miles Springwind spoke. "That's only natural. You guys have all come out." Dong Huanging also walked over. She smiled at everyone and after that, she spoke to Qin Wenyan. "Brother Qin, the constellation light is shining on you. Why don't you go up and fight? He is going to challenge Yu Changkung. In that case, who do you hope to win?" 10 Miles Springwind stared at Dong Huanging with interest as he asked. "I'll be happy no matter who wins." Dong Huanging smiled. "Is that so?" 10 Miles Springwind smiled as he stared at Dong Huanging. He felt some suspicion. Qingqing Realm Lord. At this moment, a voice rang out from the Constellation Ocean's host seat. Qin Wenyan turned his gaze over as a strange expression appeared on his face. The person who spoke was actually Yu Changkong. "Before this, I saw the Qingqing Realm Lord unleashing 13 Heaven Heart mandates. Now that the constellation light is also shining on Brother Qin, why don't you come up and spar with me?" Yu Changkong issued a challenge through the air. Qin Wenyan started as his expression grew increasingly strange. Yu Changkong shouldn't be acquainted with him, right? Why did he take the initiative to challenge him? Dong Huanging was also astonished. After that, she glared angrily at Yu Changkong in the air. "Brother Qin has no intention to participate. What are you doing?" She thought that Yu Changkong issued a challenge to Qin Wenyan because of her. If it wasn't for the fact that he had been paying attention to her, how could Yu Changkong speak up when they were talking about this? Clearly, Yu Changkong had heard their conversation. Yu Changkong was indeed paying attention to this. Naturally, the person he was paying attention to wasn't her. It was Qin Wenyan instead. Because he already learned from the conversations of the people below that the person who condensed his 8th astral soul was none other than Qin Wenyan. That was a time-attributed astral soul and in addition to his 13 Heaven Heart mandates. In that case, could the person the Time King was waiting for be the Qingqing Realm Lord? The possibility of this was extremely high. Naturally, only he, Yu Changkong, would think this way. The others still felt that it was him. Chapter 1791. Qin Wenyan felt a little puzzled. Yu Changkong was provoking him because he wanted to show off in front of Dong Huanging? But this is someone who wants you to go up. 10 Miles Springwind laughed. Chao Tian and the others glanced at Yu Changkong. This man was truly outstanding, but he made them feel that he was a hypocrite. In the past, he had always been concealing himself. But after he gained power, he instantly formed relationships with the various major powers and even had an ambiguous relationship with Dong Huanging. Right now, he wanted to trample on Qin Wenyan and show off in front of Dong Huanging. However, although Dong Huanging was beautiful, Qin Wenyan didn't have any feelings for her. He naturally wouldn't do something like this. He calmly glanced at Yu Changkong in the air and smiled. "No need, I'll just watch. Little princess, I suggested to spar with Brother Qin because I admire his glory earlier. I have no other intentions. No matter who wins or loses, it's impossible to mask his magnificence. Yu Changkong explained to Dong Huangying. After that, he turned to Qin Wenyan and smiled. Brother Qin has such talent, wouldn't it be a pity if he doesn't show it off? If this is the case, Brother Qin, you can consider it. Just like what he said, regardless of victory or defeat, it's impossible to mask his magnificence. Dong Huangying smiled. You guys are my friends, I won't interfere. Why does it sound strange? Regardless of victory or defeat, it's impossible to mask his magnificence? Are you consoling Brother Qin? Why do I feel that he would be defeated? 10 Miles Springwind spoke in a somewhat depressed manner. Qin Wenyan casually smiled. Since it's impossible to mask his magnificence regardless of victory or defeat, why is there a need to compete? Since he made the decision not to participate, he wouldn't do so. Once he participated, he would surely attract the attention of the Ziwei Divine Court. At that time, he didn't know if he would be able to retreat unscathed. At that time, if the Ziwei Divine Court summoned him, should he go or not? What a pity, I still wanted to spar with Brother Qin. Yu Changkong's behavior was extremely refined and courteous. If it wasn't for the fact that Qin Wenyan knew that Yu Changkong had pretended to be him and admitted that he had obtained the Time King's inheritance, Qin Wenyan would really believe that Yu Changkong was a gentleman. Right now, the more Yu Changkong acted like this, the more he felt that Yu Changkong was a hypocrite. Sadly, it was useless even if he reminded Dong Huangying. Dong Huangying's background was extraordinary and she was the little princess of the Dong Huang clan. From this, one could very well imagine how lofty her status was. She had seen countless geniuses before and many of them wanted to fawn over her. Right now, after seeing a heaven chosen like Yu Changkong, it was inevitable that her heart would be moved. Just when Qin Wenyan thought that this matter would end like this, Yu Changkong's gaze slowly turned over and landed on another person. After that, he smiled. Among the people attending the convention today, the person I want to challenge the most isn't Brother Qin. Instead, it's a guest from afar. When everyone heard Yu Changkong's words, their gazes all turned to him. Who did Yu Changkong want to challenge? The Luotian clan of the desolate region has always been my admiration. I didn't expect that I would be able to meet the guest from the Luotian clan in the Mystic Region's convention today. The Ziwei Divine Court released their constellation battle and I saw a goddess from the Luotian clan appearing in the world, radiating a resplendent light. Hence, I wish to spar with her and admire the glory of the Luotian clan. Yu Changkong slowly spoke. His gaze was fixed on Luo Shenlei from the Luotian clan. Luo Shenlei was also someone who was enveloped by the light of the constellation. She also had the qualifications to participate in the constellation battle. Yu Changkong's tone was still polite, praising Luo Shenlei for appearing in the world and expressing his admiration for the glory of the Luotian clan. However, there was another layer of meaning in his polite words. The Luotian clan was a peak power from the desolate region. In the future, if Yu Changkong was chosen by the Ziwei Divine Court, he would represent the Ziwei Divine Court. If he could defeat Luo Shenlei, wouldn't he have a greater chance of being chosen by the experts of the Ziwei Divine Court? This move contained a deeper meaning, using the Luotian clan to elevate himself. It was no longer a secret that the Luotian clan of the desolate region appeared in the convention of the Myriad Realms. Back then when Luo Shenlei threatened the Dragon Pool Manor, it was impossible for this matter to be concealed. Those major characters all knew about it, but they pretended that they didn't know. After all, if they knew about this, what kind of attitude should they have towards the Luotian clan? Even if they were peak powers of the Mystic Region, they still didn't have the qualifications to speak on equal terms with the Luotian clan. If they wanted them to act arrogant, they wouldn't have the guts to do so. It was even more impossible for them to bow and kneel to the Luotian clan. What would the three hegemonic powers of the Mystic Region think of this? After all, this place was the convention of the myriad realms of the Mystic Region and the Luotian clan came from the desolate region. Qin Wenyan's eyes suddenly gleamed with coldness. After Yu Changkong challenged him, he also challenged Luo Shenlei. What did this mean? Qin Wenyan naturally understood this. Although everyone didn't mention the matter of the Luotian clan, It shouldn't be a secret that Luo Xunlei had helped him before. Those who were interested would know about this. In that case, did Yu Changkong know about this matter as well? If Yu Changkong knew that he challenged Luo Xunlei, would there be a deeper meaning behind it? Was Yu Changkong targeting him? No matter if there was or not, Yu Changkong's character caused Qin Wendian to feel increasingly sinister. Luo Xunlei also started. Clearly, she didn't expect that someone would challenge her. She originally didn't come to the mystic region for the convention of the myriad realms. She naturally didn't want to participate in the constellation battle held by the Ziwei Divine Court. She only wanted to observe the cultivation bases of the world overlords of the mystic region. She had always been low profile and only revealed her identity when she helped Qin Wenyin did she reveal her identity as a member of the Luotian clan. Yu Changkong's words instantly made everything clear. Also, his polite words seemed to place himself in the perspective of the mystic region. It was like this battle wasn't just a personal one. It was also a competition between the geniuses of the mystic region and the Luotian clan of the desolate region. Her beautiful eyes stared at Yu Changkong. This person was truly scheming. Miss, there's no need for us to accept the challenge. We only need to find an excuse. The old man at the side transmitted his voice over. Although Yu Changkong was scheming, his strength has already been proven. His young miss was still young. There was no need for her to participate in such a battle. However, Luo Xunlei didn't seem to hear his words. Her beautiful eyes were still staring at Yu Changkong. Since Yu Changkong already said this, could she still reject the challenge? Wouldn't the Luotian clan have the reputation of being a coward? I'm not a goddess, I'm just an ordinary member of the Luotian clan and can't represent the geniuses of the Luotian clan. But since you wish to spar with me, I'll accept your challenge. I've cultivated for over 400 years and I've never fought against a peak genius of the mystic region before. Luo Xunlei slowly spoke, even revealing her age. This caused many people to feel shock in their hearts. What terrifying cultivation talent! As expected of someone from the Luotian clan of the desolate region. She intentionally said that she was very ordinary because she didn't want to represent the Luotian clan. If she was defeated, wouldn't the Luotian clan lose a lot of face? Many major characters silently nodded. This genius maiden of the Luotian clan was also extraordinary and had meticulous thoughts. Being able to fight against the goddess of the Luotian clan, it's my fortune of 3 lifetimes. Please. Yu Changkong was still as elegant as ever as he smiled. Luo Xunlei's silhouette flashed as she soared up into the air. Very soon, she appeared in the boundless constellation world in the constellation sea. Astral light revolved around her. She who was originally already extremely beautiful was like a goddess who descended from the heavens. At this moment, it felt like all the spiritual qi in the world was gathered around her. I heard that the Luotian clan is the god of all demons and all demons submit to you. They all have an extremely powerful innate talent, the ability to nurture gods. Today, I finally have the fortune to experience it for myself. Yu Changkong spoke. Clearly, he had a deep understanding of the Luotian clan. He even knew about the innate talent of nurturing gods. Although I've broken through to the world overlord realm, my foundation isn't stable and the time I spent breaking through is still too short. I have no way to unleash the true potential of my innate talent. In the future, if you have the chance to spar with a true genius of my clan, you will know the true talent of my Luotian clan. However, you might not be qualified to do so. Luo Xunlei calmly spoke. Ha! Yu Changkong laughed uproariously. In that case, I'll wait and see. Today, I shall temporarily witness the glory of a goddess. Please. Luo Xunlei didn't say anything more. Her long hair fluttered in the wind as a bright light radiated from her. She was like a true goddess. Her entire body was enveloped by a layer of holy light as her aura soared madly. A resplendent demon god painting appeared in the constellation space, enveloping her within. Within the demon god painting, there were many saint beasts that exuded terrifying auras. My world heart, moon god radiance. Yu Changkong spoke. As the sound of his voice faded, The power of his world heart and innate heaven heart mandate gushed forth. A desolate moonlight descended, directly shooting towards the space where Luo Shenlei was at. The moonlight cascaded down, directly locking onto Luo Shenlei's body. In his heart domain, a formless and powerful imprisonment energy manifested, causing everything to be unable to move. This has already surpassed the scope of spatial imprisonment. In Yu Changkong's world heart, everything seemed to have come to a standstill. Luo Shenlei felt that she wanted to move, but a terrifying energy was sucking her in. The formless light unceasingly bore down on her. Each beam of light was like a prison, locking her down. Bizizi. A beam of light shot over, faster than lightning, directly shooting towards Luo Shenlei. Luo Shenlei's eyes flashed with sharpness. In an instant, a gigantic divine turtle appeared and spat out a terrifying screen of light, transforming into an extremely powerful protective energy. The moonlight continued to rain down, landing on the divine turtle, wanting to lock it down. Luo Shenlei's expression didn't change. With a thunderous roar, another terrifying phoenix manifested in her world heart. It breathed out at Yu Changkong as Yu Changkong's body directly vanished from his original location. The space he was in turned into ashes, and in another location, a part of Yu Changkong's sleeves was incinerated into nothingness. The talent of the Luoshan clan truly lives up to its reputation. Yu Changkong slowly spoke. Before him, a flying serpent appeared. At this moment, his body felt like it was about to transform into an ice sculpture, directly frozen. This entire space was enveloped by the demon god painting. Greater demons unceasingly appeared, and each of the saint beasts in the painting seemed to be able to fight for Luo Shenlei. In addition, all of them had their own demon heaven heart mandates. This also indicated that Luo Shenlei could use many types of heaven heart mandates. This was the talent of the Luoshan clan. It was extremely terrifying. Everyone in the surroundings sighed in admiration. Luo Shenlei has only cultivated for over 400 years. If she grew stronger in the future, her talent would surely grow more and more powerful. Chapter 1792. It's rumored that when the talent of the Luoshan clan's spirit-rearing talent reaches a certain level, they would be able to summon demon gods to protect them. At that time, how terrifying would that be? Also, everyone's talent was different. It was extremely difficult to cultivate, and one had to have extremely high comprehension abilities. The so-called spirit-rearing talent referred to rearing demon gods. The strength of each spirit-rearing talent would depend on the cultivation talent of the master. Luo Shenlei hasn't been in the world overlord realm for a long time. Although she had the talent of spirit-rearing and was extremely powerful, her world heart was still weak. Her original body was sealed and was stuck to her original location, unable to move. If it wasn't for the fact that she had an innate advantage, she would have long since been defeated. I heard that the cultivation of the spirit-rearing talent requires an extremely long period of time. Each spirit-rearing talent has to depend on the master's comprehension. Although Goddess's talent is extraordinary, your cultivation base is still weak. These spirit-rearing talents might have heaven heart mandates, but they are all a little weak. Yu Changkong's voice rang out in the air, sounding extremely carefree. At this moment, Yu Changkong's body radiated an incomparably resplendent light. The entire space here was filled with a supremely powerful moonlight, desolate and cold. With Yu Changkong as the center, the entire space was in a state of stillness. The rearing deities were also enveloped by the moonlight, unable to move. World heart suppression. Everyone silently mused when they saw this scene. Yu Changkong clearly had an absolute advantage in terms of world heart when facing Luo Shenlei. Since his world heart could suppress Luo Shenlei, the ending of the battle was already determined. "I'll have to offend you then." Yu Changkong spoke. He waved his hand elegantly as the spirit-rearing talents in the air directly exploded. They basically couldn't block his tyrannical attack. Luo Shenlei wanted to retreat, but she discovered that she was trapped in a formless prison. In this entire world, she was the only person trapped within that absolute power. "Stay your hand." At this moment, a shout rang out from below. After that, Luo Shenlei groaned in pain as a beam of light directly blasted into her body, causing her to cough out a mouthful of blood in the air. The old man from the Luoshan clan flashed and appeared beside her. However, Luo Shenlei waved her hand and stopped him. She stared at Yu Changkong with a cold expression. The Luoshan clan of the desolate region? From what I've seen today, it seems that they are merely SOSO. I hope I'll have a chance to meet even stronger characters in the future. Yu Changkong calmly spoke, exuding the might he exuded after defeating a world overlord from the Luoshan clan of the desolate region. His radiance grew even more dazzling and resplendent. Also, he was completely different from how he usually was. His arrogant tone was filled with disdain for the Luoshan clan. Before this, when Yu Changkong fought against the geniuses of the other hegemonic powers of the mystic region, he would show mercy and not injure his opponents. But now, when facing the Luoshan clan of the desolate region, he actually acted out of character, injuring Luo Shenlei and even saying that the Luoshan clan is merely SOSO. Someone silently mused when he saw this scene. However, they soon understood. Yu Changkong was trying to gain a favorable impression from the Ziwei Divine Court. If he was accepted into the Ziwei Divine Court, he would gain a lot of face by defeating a world overlord from the Luoshan clan of the desolate region. Although the Luoshan clan would be unhappy about this, it was impossible for the Luoshan clan to take revenge because of this. For a transcendent power like the Luoshan clan, they couldn't afford to lose so much face. It was possible for them to let a world overlord from the younger generation take revenge. Luo Shenlei's expression turned cold when she heard Yu Changkong's words. Yu Changkong was intentionally using her to raise his own prestige, constantly emphasizing the Luoshan clan. Although she knew that such an ending might happen, it was impossible for her to avoid a battle. Yu Changkong had already pointed out the Luoshan clan. Even if she was defeated, she had to fight. This was her attitude. At this moment, Qin Wentian's eyes were exceptionally cold. He stared at Yu Changkong in the air as a cold intent radiated from him. Even a genius from the Luoshan clan was easily defeated. Yu Changkong's talent is simply incomparable. Dong Huangying spoke in a light voice. Her beautiful eyes flashed with a bright light as she stared at the figure in the air. Merely a shameless vile character. Qin Wentian calmly spoke. His words caused Dong Huangying, who was immersed in joy, to stiffen. She turned her head and stared at Qin Wentian. Brother Qin, I know this fairy from the Luoshan clan has helped you before. But Yu Changkong defeated her fair and square. There's no need for you to humiliate him like this, right? Yu Changkong seemed to have heard Qin Wentian's voice. He turned his gaze over and smiled at Qin Wentian. Brother Qin, why are you slandering me? Elder brother, have you forgotten the agreement between us? If I'm defeated, so be it. There's no need to stand out for me. Luo Shenlei's voice rang out. She didn't want others to know that her relationship with Qin Wentian was too close. She didn't want people to investigate this matter. Qin Wentian's identity was still a little sensitive. Hence, Luo Shenlei intentionally reminded Qin Wentian not to stand out. Before this, I have a treasure with Miss Luoshan on me. Hence, I'm acquainted with her and didn't mind her identity. Qin Wentian slowly spoke to Dong Huangying. It's just that it's fine if Yu Changkong took the initiative to challenge her. But why did he keep emphasizing the fact that the Luoshan clan is merely SOSO? Before this, Yu Changkong didn't injure a single person, but now he actually injured a young maiden. Using such a method to trample on others to raise his own status, isn't this shameless? Little princess, you have to look at people more clearly. As for Yu Changkong's words, Qin Wentian directly ignored them. I've always respected Brother Qin, but I didn't expect Brother Qin to slander me like this. I wonder when have I offended Brother Qin? Yu Changkong was still as polite as ever. That's right, Yu Changkong has always respected you. Even if your relationship with Miss Luoshan isn't bad, you shouldn't slander and humiliate others because of this, right? This is clearly Brother Qin's fault. Why didn't I see it clearly? Dong Huangying spoke up for Yu Changkong. I have no intention to guess Brother Qin's thoughts. It's just that Brother Qin is so biased and didn't participate in the constellation battle. Could it be that you already have a good place to go? Yu Changkong, who was in the air, calmly spoke. After that, the eyes of everyone flashed. Yu Changkong's words clearly hinted that Qin Wendian might go to the Luotian clan of the desolate region. Could it be that he wanted to marry into the Luotian clan? As expected of a despicable person. Qin Wendian glanced at Yu Changkong. He lied to everyone and obtained the Time King's recognition before getting close to Dong Huangying. But now, he was actually using such thoughts to judge him? Yu Changkong defeated the young geniuses of the Luotian clan and is extremely heroic. What do you mean by insulting him? Could it be that you are preparing to leave the mystic region? Someone directly spoke. The person who spoke was none other than an expert from the Dragon Pool Manor who had a grudge against the Luotian clan and Qin Wenyan. Little friend Qin's words are too biased. What's there to nitpick about Yu Changkong's performance today? A powerful world overlord from the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms also spoke. The Eastern Royal Immortal Realms was a vassal of the Ziwei Divine Court, and Yu Changkong might very well become a disciple of the Ziwei Divine Court. In addition, Yu Changkong's relationship with Dong Huangying was extraordinary. He naturally had to speak up for Yu Changkong. Qin Wendian didn't expect that by standing out to criticize Yu Changkong, he would instead become the target of public criticism. One couldn't help but say that during these days, Yu Changkong's efforts weren't wasted. Also, because of his dazzling talent and the inheritance of the Time King, many people still spoke up for Yu Changkong despite their hearts being like a mirror. Many of you are major characters of your respective powers. Let me ask all of you. If I defeat a world overlord from your powers, would I have a reason to openly mock the powers you all are from? If that's the case, what would everyone think? Would you feel that I'm arrogant? Qin Wenyan calmly spoke, ignoring the pressure from all directions. Although Luo Shenlei told him not to stand up for her, he still couldn't endure it. He loathed Yu Changkong more and more. Yu Changkong's world heart is clearly stronger compared to Miss Luoshan. His cultivation base is more stable and he has cultivated for a longer period of time. Bullying a person who is clearly weaker than him, and after defeating him, he became arrogant and even mocked the Luotian clan. In the future, if Yu Changkong has a chance to join a hegemonic power of our mystic region, wouldn't he be mocking the mystic region for having no experts? Qin Wendian continued, for people of our generation, no matter where we come from, we still have to respect the hegemonic powers of the various regions. If we act so arrogantly just because of a single victory, we would only be mocked by others. I don't believe that Yu Changkong doesn't understand this. But earlier he was humble, but now he is doing this intentionally. This is simply because he wants to use the Luotian clan to raise his status. If he isn't a despicable person, what is he? What a joke. Yu Changkong challenged you, but you didn't dare to accept. Now you are mocking others? Don't forget that Yu Changkong has obtained the inheritance of the Time King. Who do you think you are? What qualifications do you have to speak so arrogantly here? What a despicable person. Do you guys believe his words? I can also say that I've obtained the inheritance of the Time King. Would you guys believe me? Qin Wendian mocked. He truly wanted to expose Yu Changkong right here and now. Ha, I've participated in many conventions of the myriad realms, but this is the first time I've heard such a laughable thing. Someone laughed uproariously. Could it be that Yu Changkong dared to lie to everyone in the mystic region? As for Qin Wenyan saying that he obtained the inheritance of the Time King, to everyone, it was merely a joke to belittle Yu Changkong. Dong Huangying's expression became extremely unsightly. She stared at Qin Wenyan. Brother Qin, I've always respected you and treated you as a friend. I didn't expect you to act like this. How disappointing. Qin Wendian glanced at Dong Huangying. Before this, Dong Huangying wanted to rope him in because of his talent. But now, she clearly trusted Yu Changkong completely. This was because she saw a higher value in Yu Changkong. The word friend was a little too cheap. If Dong Huangying truly treated him as a friend, she would carefully consider his words. It wasn't hard for her to understand some logic. Right now, she kept feeling that he was in the wrong because the person standing opposite to Qin Wenyan was Yu Changkong. If she had to choose between the two of them, she would naturally choose Yu Changkong, this so-called successor of the Time King. Since we walk different paths, we can't make plans together. Little princess, please do as you wish. Qin Wenyan didn't want to say anything more and directly spoke. Dong Huang-ing stared at Qin Wenyan and coldly snorted. After that, she turned and left. Chapter 1793. Dong Huang-ing returned to the crowd of the Donghuang clan. Her expression was extremely unsightly. She had always treated Qin Wenyan with respect, but she didn't expect Qin Wenyan to be so despicable, slandering Yu Changkong. When she thought back to that day when Qin Wenyan reminded her that Yu Changkong's character was problematic, it seemed that Qin Wenyan was truly jealous of Yu Changkong, snatching away his limelight. If not, why didn't he dare to accept Yu Changkong's challenge to Qin Wenyan earlier? I've misjudged. Dong Huang-ing spoke with some anger. Little princess, I feel that Brother Qin's words aren't without logic. Did you not discover that Yu Changkong did this intentionally? If not, why would he only injure the maidens of the Luotian clan and even belittle them? Xiao Yu, who was at the side, spoke in a low voice. Dong Huang-ing glanced at Xiao Yu as her expression turned even colder. Are you also jealous that Yu Changkong can still stand there while you were blasted down? Xiao Yu's expression instantly turned pale. He stared with disbelief at this beautiful young woman whom he was acquainted with for so many years. Their relationship was very good, and even if the little princess really liked someone else, their friendship would still exist. He didn't expect that she would directly humiliate him like this. At this moment, Xiao Yu felt a little disheartened. Little Yu, don't mind her. Little Ying was just angry for a moment. An old man from the Donghuang clan spoke. Yu Changkong's talent is extraordinary, and he has also obtained the inheritance of the Time King. He has always been arrogant and has been suppressing his pride until he defeated the experts from the Luotian clan. So what if he is a little arrogant? Which genius wouldn't be arrogant? Xiao Yu nodded lightly and didn't say anything. However, he was already filled with disappointment in his heart. Seems like the elders of the Donghuang clan also supported Yu Changkong, who asked Yu Changkong to obtain the Time King's inheritance. Even the Time King left behind a message saying that he would wait for Yu Changkong in the future. For such a character, even hegemonic-level world overlords would have to show him some respect. In addition, given the attitude Yu Changkong displayed to Dong Huang-ing, the Donghuang clan would definitely support them being together. As for Xiao Yu, what could he count as? Now you can see her attitude, right? Before this, I already said that if Wen Ian fought against Yu Changkong, her reply was extremely fake. 10 Miles Springwind laughed. He wasn't too disappointed. His judgment of people has always been very accurate, and he has seen many people like Dong Huang-ing before. Hence, this didn't affect his mood at all. He is merely a world overlord and hasn't become a sword monarch. Everyone, there's no need to be so eager to form good relationships with him. No matter what, he is a character with status in the mystic region. Why don't you give yourself some face? Chao Tian didn't care about so much and directly rebuked those who spoke up for Yu Changkong earlier. Qin Wenyan felt some warmth in his heart. Right now, many major characters in the convention all supported Yu Changkong. Dong Huang-ying's attitude could also be seen clearly. Only these friends who robbed the Dragon Pool Manor together with Qin Wenyan still stood by his side. Sometimes, they would joke around and curse each other. Wasn't this true friendship? For such things, there was no need to intentionally do so. On the contrary, what Qin Wenyan had said about the inheritance of the Lord of Time was ignored. This sentence caused no one to think too much about it. Clearly, it was said out of anger and was intentionally belittling Yu Changkong. But who would have thought that this casual sentence was actually the truth? The only person who had some suspicions was that hegemonic-level world overlord from the Tiandao Sacred Academy. He had always been paying attention to Qin Wenyan. Earlier, when Qin Wenyan condensed his 8th astral soul, he had personally arrived and asked Qin Wenyan what was his law attribute. Qin Wenyan replied that it was the time attribute, and because he heard the legend of the God King of Time, he decided to condense a time-attributed astral soul. However, the time-attributed astral soul was extremely powerful. Could such an astral soul be condensed so casually? Did he suddenly go to condense it because he felt something? Qin Wenyan didn't participate in this battle. Was he intentionally hiding something? Did his unintentional words just now reveal something? Strength is the best method to prove everything. If not, no matter how logical your words are, you still wouldn't have the authority to speak. The voice of the old man from the Tiandao Sacred Academy rang out in Qin Wentian's mind. He then transmitted his voice to Qin Wentian. Why don't you participate in the constellation battle? I don't think you are afraid of losing and losing face. The Ziwei Divine Court is a peak power in the mystic region and is truly extraordinary. Do you have any misgivings? Qin Wentian started when he heard this. He glanced in the direction of the old man from the Tiandao Sacred Academy and replied, Senior, Junior is used to freedom and doesn't like to be restricted. If I become a disciple of a major power, I will definitely listen to their orders. You mean that you don't want to join a peak power in the mystic region? Hence, you are intentionally avoiding contact with the Ziwei Divine Court? That expert spoke, feeling somewhat strange in his heart. This fellow was truly interesting. You can put it that way. Qin Wentian didn't hide anything. He still had some favorable impression of the Tiandao Sacred Academy. Hence he spoke frankly. In any case, even if these words were to spread out, it wouldn't be a big deal. Don't worry about it. If your performance is truly outstanding and attracted the attention of the Ziwei Divine Court, you can say that you want to go to the Tiandao Sacred Academy for cultivation. The people of the Ziwei Divine Court wouldn't force you. Naturally, the Tiandao Sacred Academy wouldn't restrict you. If you want to go, you can do so. If you don't, it's fine. The old man laughed as he transmitted his voice over. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. Given the old man's status, it was naturally impossible for him to intentionally lie to him. In that case, the old man must truly have the confidence that the Ziwei Divine Court wouldn't interfere in the matters of the Tiandao Sacred Academy. The two of them communicated via voice transmission in an instant. On the other side, Yu Changkong has been watching everything from his seat in the Constellation Lord's seat. His expression was still as carefree as ever, exuding an extraordinary aura. Countless world overlords in the convention saw everything. They were all thinking that although Qin Wentian was a supreme character, when compared to the inheritor of the Time King, he was clearly weaker. The people of the various powers naturally knew who they should support. I don't wish to explain everything Brother Qin has said. But since Brother Qin insulted and slandered me like this, no matter what the reason is, I can only request for another battle. Yu Changkong calmly spoke. This casual sentence was the most domineering declaration. No matter what Qin Wentian said, he wouldn't refute it and would settle it with a single battle. Strength was above everything else. Many people stared at Qin Wentian with interest, waiting to see him make a fool of himself. Should he reject the battle again? If that was the case, everything he said earlier would only be asking for humiliation. He simply wouldn't have the face to remain in the time realm. I will grant you your wish. Qin Wentian stepped out, flying towards the constellation sea. In an instant, constellation light enveloped his body. His white robes and long hair fluttered in the wind, in addition to his handsome features. Even for those who were unhappy with Qin Wentian, they couldn't help but to admit that this young man was extraordinary. Don't forget that back then, he once displayed 13 Heaven Heart mandates and insta-killed the Heaven Chosen of the Dragon Pool clan, Long Yuan Haoyu. It's just that right now, the opponent standing before him was countless times stronger compared to Long Yuan Haoyu. This was a true peak-level world overlord, Yu Changkong. Yu Changkong has already experienced many battles. His world heart, the radiance of the moon, contained a supremely powerful sealing ability, capable of causing the entire space to freeze. His Heaven Heart mandate attacks were tyrannical to the extreme, their speed was inconceivably fast and they were extremely powerful. Brother Qin, make your move. If not, if I release my world heart, I'm afraid Brother Qin wouldn't have a chance to act anymore. Yu Changkong smiled. This is the true you. There's no need to mask your arrogance. After experiencing so many battles, you have to appear humble and magnanimous after every battle. Are you tired? Qin Wentian stared at Yu Changkong as he spoke. Since Brother Qin says this, I can only be arrogant for a while. Yu Changkong laughed uproariously. As the sound of his voice faded, his world heart and innate heaven heart mandate were released together. In an instant, that desolate light enveloped Qin Wenyan, as well as this entire space, sealing everything. Qin Wenyan only felt his entire body turning still. This heaven heart mandate, could it be that the source origin of time was infused within? Maybe. At this instant, Qin Wenyan's world heart was released. The power of his heaven heart mandate enveloped this vast space. Qin Wenyan's aura suddenly changed. Even though he was sealed, he was still like a divinity, the ruler of this world. This was Qin Wenyan's world heart. His will was like the will of the heavens, no one could defy it. At this moment, Qin Wenyan could sense a killing intent. This killing intent originated from Yu Changkong's world heart. Yu Changkong wanted to kill him. This caused Qin Wenyan's eyes to flash with coldness. There shouldn't be a huge grudge between him and Yu Changkong, right? Was it because he said that Yu Changkong was shameless earlier that Yu Changkong wanted to kill him? In that case, wouldn't all the pretense Yu Changkong put up before this be seen through? Or could it be that there were other reasons he didn't know of? In truth, the true reason was that Yu Changkong suspected that Qin Wenyan was the person the Time King was waiting for. Hence, if Yu Changkong killed Qin Wenyan, no one would know of this secret forever. Numerous attacks that were faster than lightning shot out from the void, containing incomparably tyrannical might, directly penetrating Qin Wenyan's body. Just when the tyrannical attacks were about to penetrate Qin Wenyan's body, at this moment, Qin Wenyan's body seemed to have moved. He was retreating with extreme speed. That incomparably tyrannical attack stopped before him, unable to hit him. He didn't move. The eyes of everyone flashed. Qin Wenyan's body didn't move at all. However, that attack seemed to have no way to get near him, unable to land on him. It felt like it was so close, yet so far away. Qin Wenyan's eyes flashed with a terrifying coldness. In the next instant, a terrifying beam of light shot out from the void, directly appearing around Yu Changkong, wanting to penetrate his body. It was so fast that there was basically no way to block it. However, Yu Changkong's radiance was incomparably resplendent. When the attack was about to land on him, it would involuntarily halt, unable to advance any further. At the instant the two of them clashed, the eyes of many world overlords gleamed with sharpness. How powerful these two were! Their methods were similar, but they were completely different types of energy. Their world hearts and innate heaven heart mandates were both extremely powerful. Qin Wenyan was imprisoned, but his opponent's attack couldn't even touch him. Yu Changkong stood there. The terrifying attack that shot out from the void would stop when it neared him. In that case, both of them had extraordinary world hearts. Who was stronger exactly? Chapter 1794. The battle between Qin Wenyan and Yu Changkong was the focus of attention in the convention. Even the geniuses of the other three constellation lords were paying close attention to this battle. As for Dong Huangying, Luo Shenlei and the others, there was naturally no need to say anything. Yu Changkong's world heart is able to lock down everything. It's like a frozen space. It's impossible for any attacks to get close to him. It's undoubtedly a fool's dream for Qin Wenyan to win against him. Dong Huangying coldly spoke. Even now, she still felt resentment in her heart. She was extremely unhappy with Qin Wenyan. Luo Shenlei glanced at Dong Huangying coldly. Although she didn't wish for Qin Wenyan to act, since the two of them were fighting now, she naturally hoped that Qin Wenyan would be able to win. You can't move your body, how can you fight against me? Although your heaven heart mandate is strong, it's impossible for you to even get close to me, let alone defeat me. At this moment, Yu Changkong spoke from afar. In the constellation C, the distance between him and Qin Wenyan was extremely far. But given how powerful world overlords were, their attacks could envelop an entire region of space. In my world heart, do you really think you can restrict me? Ignorant. As the sound of Qin Wenyan's voice faded, he directly vanished from his original location and appeared in another direction. Yu Changkong frowned. This was a slap to his face. He coldly snorted. The light beam descended once more, wanting to lock down Qin Wenyan. But at the next moment, Qin Wenyan vanished again. It was like he didn't move, but rather, it was like he ignored the distance between him and Qin Wenyan. Yu Changkong's expression was extremely cold. He stepped forward, yet he only saw Qin Wenyan coldly staring at him. When his eyes opened and closed, the entire world seemed to change. Qin Wenyan's aura suddenly changed. He was like a divinity. A formless energy directly bore down on Yu Changkong. At this moment, Yu Changkong felt his body being locked to the spot. He had no way to move. He frowned. He who was proficient in sealing energy was actually locked down by Qin Wenyan. In my world heart, my will is the heavens, surpassing everything. Qin Wenyan said proudly, like an unreachable god. His body was surrounded by dazzling light, as if he was invincible. Lightning of light and darkness tore through space, like the most terrifying destructive energy in the world, shooting towards Yu Changkong. A thunderous boom rang out. Yu Changkong's body shone resplendently, causing the attack to stop. The entire space was filled with a desolate killing intent. It felt like there was a boundless killing intent traversing through the void, penetrating through everything as it shot towards Yu Changkong, wanting to tear the space he was in apart. Numerous beams of light shot out, ignoring all defenses, wanting to land on Qin Wenyan's body. At this instant, all sorts of killing arts appeared in the constellation sea, exploding forth ferociously. These were all attacks from Qin Wenyan's Heaven Heart mandate, incomparably violent and endless. In his world heart, he could control everything. With a single thought, the killing energy from his Heaven Heart mandate would fill the entire space. In an instant, the initiative changed hands. Yu Changkong became extremely passive and had to endure the never-ending barrage of attacks. Dong Huangying's expression changed. At this moment, a gigantic full moon rose from Yu Changkong's body. The desolate intent gushed forth once more, wanting to envelop this entire space. This full moon radiated boundless moonlight, causing the entire space to enter a state of stillness. All the attacks stopped. They were enveloped by the power of the full moon, unable to move. Moon eclipse. Yu Changkong spoke. In an instant, an incomparable moonlight radiated from him, absorbing all the energy in the surroundings. The boundless killing energy in the surroundings was instantly absorbed into the full moon, vanishing from sight. The Yu Changkong at this moment was like a god of the moon, someone that couldn't be profaned. The vast space froze. Everywhere the moonlight passed by, the flow of space seemed to have stopped. How powerful! This should be Yu Changkong's peak strength. Someone sighed in admiration. As expected of a genius who obtained the inheritance of the Time Monarch. The Time King is waiting for him in the future. This convention of the myriad realms this time around, we will be witnessing the rise of another character like the Sword Monarch. Although I didn't participate in the convention of the Sword Monarch back then, I'm sure his strength is only at this level, right? Many major characters praised. Such power, when used by a young world overlord, truly caused everyone to sigh in admiration. Upon hearing the praises of many people, Dong Huangying's furrowed brows relaxed. A smile appeared on her face as her beautiful eyes gleamed with a hint of adoration. The light of a firefly is ultimately unable to compete against the radiance of the moon. Dong Huangying was the first to speak, feeling even more complacent. Comparing Qin Wenyan to a firefly and Yu Changkong to the bright moon, she felt that this description was extremely appropriate. Back then, Sword Monarch was 10 times more powerful than him. Old Ghost coldly mocked. These people have never seen the Sword Monarch of the past before. Now that they saw a genius, they immediately compared Qin Wenyan to Sword Monarch. This was simply ridiculous. Characters that could become heavenly deities, how could they be compared so easily? If that was the case, wouldn't there be many heavenly deities appearing? Only those who could trample all geniuses beneath their feet would have the chance to become heavenly deities. Yu Changkong's eyes were cold as he stared at Qin Wenyan. He was like a lofty god peering down at the masses as he coldly spoke. Is this your world heart? It's merely a... However, it's already not bad for you to be able to persist until now. Next, it's time for the battle to end. The moonlight grew increasingly resplendent, illuminating this entire world. Qin Wenyin was also enveloped by the moonlight, appearing incomparably tiny. All of Qin Wentian's attacks couldn't even withstand a single strike from the moonlight as they directly vanished into nothingness. The so-called heavenly fate world heart is nothing more than a joke. Yu Changkong coldly spoke. The moonlight bore down on Qin Wentian, wanting to freeze him. A desolate killing intent gushed forth. This feeling was so clear. Slash. When the moonlight descended, Yu Changkong roared. A moonlight blade slashed out, slashing apart space, wanting to destroy Qin Wenyin. But at this moment, Qin Wentian's body seemed to disappear into nothingness. When the killing intent vanished, he reappeared and was still standing at his original location. This caused Yu Changkong to frown. This Qin Wentian was truly tenacious enough. His Heaven Heart mandate truly had many methods. But the ending wouldn't change. He was then the true God King of the mystic region, a future monarch character. The God King of Time had misjudged him. Do you know what heavenly fate is? The silent Qin Wenyin suddenly spoke, his words causing Yu Changkong to frown. He didn't understand Qin Wentian's words. Qin Wentian's world heart was named Heavenly Fate World Heart. It was named by an expert from the Tiandao Sacred Academy for him. What did Qin Wentian mean by asking this? Heaven's will cannot be defied. Qin Wentian's lips trembled as he spoke once more. The instant the sound of his voice rang out, Yu Tianming only felt a terrifying sense of danger in the surrounding space. It was as though an extremely powerful energy was being brewed within him. Qin Wentian's fist at this moment shone with an incomparably resplendent light. The energy of the entire space frenziedly flowed into his palm. At this instant, the energy of the entire world seemed to be connected to his fist. His heavenly fate world heart seemed to want to fuse together with his innate technique. Yu Changkong had the power of a lunar eclipse, fusing his heaven heart mandate with his innate technique, allowing him to unleash a supremely powerful attack. How could Qin Wenyin not have such an ability? Break! Qin Wentian punched out. At this instant, this punch seemed to represent the will of heaven's will. It couldn't be defied. It directly pierced through space, ignoring all energy as it bore down on the location where Yu Changkong was at. In an instant, the space there seemed to explode. Yu Changkong's expression drastically changed. He hurriedly retreated as his full moon shone with an incomparable radiance. Boom! A thunderous boom rang out as the full moon directly disintegrated, vanishing into nothingness. However, the might of that fist didn't dissipate. It wanted to shatter Yu Changkong's body into nothingness. In an instant, a terrifying storm gathered once more. The power of Qin Wentian's Heaven Heart mandate was like a primordial beast, frenziedly rushing towards Qin Wenyin, wanting to devour Yu Changkong. At this moment, Yu Changkong had a feeling that Qin Wenyin was right before his eyes. When he saw Qin Wenyin lifting his fist again, Yu Changkong felt a sense of terror in his heart. It was like he could sense danger. The heavens and earth rumbled. Qin Wenyin punched out again, penetrating through everything. At this instant, Yu Changkong's body glowed with a dazzling divine light, resembling the armor of the moon god, enveloping him. However, that tyrannical attack still blasted him into the ancient mountain far away. With a thunderous boom, Yu Changkong's body was smashed into the ancient mountain. At this moment, the expressions of everyone changed. It was an extremely fascinating scene. Qin Wenyin didn't have time to care about the thoughts of everyone. He soared through the air, wanting to pursue. However, a figure directly appeared before Qin Wenyin, blocking him. Victory and defeat have already been decided. Why must you be so overbearing? The person who acted was an expert from a subsidiary power of the Ziwei Divine Court. Although Qin Wenyin defeated Yu Changkong, he still didn't want to see the successor of the ancient time king die here. Qin Wenyin glanced at him and didn't say anything. He acted so ruthlessly because of Yu Changkong's killing intent. This person had killing intent towards him. However, since he was blocked by someone, he didn't persist. He glanced at the miserable figure who walked out from the ancient mountain. I'm merely an ordinary world overlord of a world in the mystic region. You can't even be compared to me, What qualifications do you have to judge the world? Before this, I refused to fight you because I felt disdain. Yet, you actually think that you are unrivaled in the mystic region? How laughable, ignorant, and not knowing the immensity of the heavens and earth. Qin Wentian mocked. Yu Changkong's expression turned ashen, but he had no way to retort, because he was defeated. At this moment, countless gazes turned to Qin Wentian. They initially thought that this victory would belong to Yu Changkong. He was the successor of the ancient time king and was extremely powerful. How could he be defeated? He should have suppressed Qin Wentian. But reality was like this. So what if Yu Changkong was the successor of the ancient time king? He was still defeated by the Qingqing realm lord. What was fate? Heaven's will was unquestionable. How imposing was this? In this convention of the mystic region this time around, just this battle alone caused everyone's hearts to tremble. Chapter 1795. The Time King's successor would also be defeated by the Qingqing realm lord. Before this, when Qin Wentian challenged him, Qin Wentian rejected. Many people thought that he didn't dare to accept the challenge. But now, how ridiculous was that? Qin Wentian had such a powerful force, how could he not dare to accept the challenge? It was just that they still didn't understand. Since he was so powerful, why was he so low profile and unwilling to display his brilliance? Qin Wentian was like this in the past as well. Back then when the Heaven Heart Mirror descended, many geniuses went up to display their prowess, but Qin Wentian didn't. It was only because of the grudge between him and the Dragon Pool Manor that he finally stood out during the battle against Longyuan Haoyu. He unleashed 13 Heaven Heart mandates, letting the convention of the myriad realms know of his existence. Right now, there seemed to be a sense of déjà vu. He didn't have the heart to participate in the battle. Yu Changkong provoked him twice, but he finally stepped out and defeated the Time King's successor. This caused many people to have strange thoughts. He was so dazzling. In that case, when the Ziwei Divine Court chose their successor, who would they choose between Qin Wentian and Yu Changkong? Awesome, this battle can finally make those people who spoke earlier shut up. All of them relied on their status in the mystic region to criticize me, thinking that I'm infallible. How about now? This slap on their faces is truly resounding. Chao Tian spoke. Before this, many people who helped Yu Changkong to insult Qin Wentian all shut up. This battle was truly a slap on their faces. I really want to know what the person who called himself a friend is thinking now. 10 Miles Springwind mocked. Many people turned their gazes to Dong Huang-ying. Dong Huang-ying's expression was extremely unsightly. This was truly a slap to her face. She kept saying that Qin Wentian was jealous of Yu Changkong, but what about now? Did Qin Wentian need to be jealous of Yu Changkong, who was weaker than him? If he was jealous, he would have long since fought to defeat Yu Changkong. However, if it wasn't for Yu Changkong provoking him twice, he might not even have fought. This was basically disregarding Yu Changkong. Dong Huang-ying's expression kept changing. It was extremely fascinating. The experts from the Donghuang clan also stared at the dazzling white-robed figure in the air. He exuded magnificence and defeated the successor of the Time King, Yu Changkong. He was one of the most dazzling young world overlords in this convention. But because of Yu Changkong, Dong Huang-ying chose to forsake their friendship and supported Yu Changkong with no hesitation. Was this worth it? So what if he obtained a temporary victory? He is Yu Changkong and has obtained the recognition of the God King. The God King even said that he would wait for him in the future. Although he lost this battle, he would still be able to make a comeback in the future and wash away this humiliation. Dong Huang-ying felt extremely complicated in her heart. In the end, she found a reason to console herself. Her relationship with Qin Wentian had already broken apart. She didn't want to regret her choice. Hence, she still firmly believed that a single defeat didn't mean anything. He was the successor of the Time King, and in the future, he would surely be more dazzling than Qin Wentian. This battle was merely a temporary victory. That was all there was to it. Qin Wentian didn't look at Dong Huang-ying. Since Dong Huang-ying has already made her choice, as the saying goes, those who walk different paths can't make plans together. From now on, they would just be strangers. There was no need for him to mock her. He once used the identity of a friend to persuade Dong Huanging to look at Yu Changkong clearly. If Dong Huanging truly had the heart, she should consider the words he said to her. She wanted to wait for a character like the Sword Monarch to appear before her and become her Dao companion. However, this was merely an unrealistic fantasy. It was impossible for Yu Changkong to become her Dao companion, because he had never obtained the Time King's inheritance. This was all a lie. Brother Qin's strength is extraordinary and your talent is outstanding. You are rarely seen in the mystic region. Yu Changkong, losing to you isn't an injustice. Although I spoke a lot of arrogant words earlier, it's unavoidable during times of war. Given Brother Qin's talent, you should have already occupied the position of a constellation lord. At this moment, Yu Changkong walked over. It was like the arrogant person who fought against Qin Wenyan earlier wasn't him. This sudden change caused Qin Wenyan to be stunned. He didn't regain his senses for a period of time. Earlier, this Yu Changkong was still exuding killing intent towards him. Such a sudden change, if one put it nicely, it meant that he was able to bow and submit when necessary. But if one put it bluntly, how shameless was this? The two words Brother Qin. How can a despicable person like you be qualified to address me in such a manner? Qin Wendian mocked. How good. Since this is the case, I shall refer to myself as the Qingqing Realm Lord then. I will naturally remember my defeat today and remind myself that in the future, I will definitely fight you again to wash away the humiliation of today's battle. Yu Changkong calmly spoke. Good bearing. On the path of cultivation, who can remain undefeated for eternity. If you lose, you won't give up. At that time, you can make a comeback. A major character from the Donghuang clan spoke. How rare and commendable. A major character from the Donghuang clan spoke. That's right. He isn't like a certain someone who became so complacent after a single victory. Others respectfully address him as Brother Qin, but he was insulted as a despicable person instead. The disparity between them is obvious. Dong Huanging also spoke. She stood in Yu Changkong's position and naturally felt that whatever Yu Changkong did was right. Qin Wenyan made her feel that a despicable person was intoxicated by success. Qin Wenyan glanced at Dong Huanging as he silently shook his head. Seems like she has already fallen into his trap. Back then, he still thought that she was extremely intelligent and was proficient in using her advantage to win over the hearts of others. But now, she had fallen into Yu Changkong's trap. Naturally, it couldn't be said that Dong Huanging was stupid. She was indeed trying to win over the hearts of others. It was just that the person she was doing all she could to win over was Yu Changkong. She naturally wouldn't admit that she was wrong. How shameless! Chao Tian cursed in a low voice as a look of disgust appeared on his face. They were all people with status and prestige. It was inevitable for them to be so shameless. Earlier, Chao Tian was arrogantly humiliating Qin Wenyan and now, he referred to him as Brother Qin. Could it be that Qin Wenyan really had to treat him with respect? Could it be that Chao Tian couldn't see through Yu Changkong's disguise? If the one who won was Yu Changkong, would he still refer to him as Brother Qin? Most probably, he would continue to humiliate Qin Wenyan. The Qingqing Realm Lord occupies the first Constellation Lord position, but there are still 3 more. Although I was defeated, I'm not willing to give up just like that. I still want to fight for it. Yu Changkong slowly spoke, his words causing Chao Tian and the others to start again. He truly wouldn't give up until he achieved his goal. Yu Changkong was going all out. No matter how others viewed him, he wanted to join the Ziwei Divine Court. Even if he was defeated, he didn't feel any shame at all. One could only say that this person's schemes were too deep. Shameless. Qin Wendian mocked. After that, he turned to everyone and spoke. Before this, I didn't want to fight because I didn't want to fight for the Constellation Lord position. There are countless geniuses in the mystic region. Qin, don't dare to claim that I'm unparalleled. I hope that the Constellation Lord position will be left to the truly dazzling geniuses. I'm willing to withdraw. Everyone was stunned when they heard this. Qin Wenyan defeated Yu Changkong, but he actually didn't want to occupy the Constellation Lord position and enjoy the glory of being the center of attention. Instead, he wanted to withdraw. This truly caused everyone to be speechless. Given his strength and talent, it was very possible for him to become a disciple of the Ziwei Divine Court. Could it be that the Ziwei Divine Court didn't hold any attraction to him? Seems like there's really a good place to go. A strange voice rang out. It was none other than someone from the Dragon Pool Manor. Many people immediately glanced over in the direction of Luo Shenlei. This was clearly hinting at the conjecture of everyone earlier. Qin Wenyan wanted to leave the Mystic region and head to the Luoshan clan. Qin Wenyan coldly glanced over. The Dragon Pool Manor had ulterior motives. If the Ziwei Divine Court knew of this, what would they think? Hee hee. Dong Huang-ing coldly laughed. How ridiculous! Qin Wenyan mocked. At this moment, in the direction of the Tiandao Sacred Academy, that expert from the Dragon Pool Manor calmly spoke. Everyone, no matter what, you are all characters with status and prestige in the Mystic region. You all better watch your words. The expressions of many people flashed. A major character from the Tiandao Sacred Academy actually spoke up for Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan has fate with the Tiandao Sacred Academy. He once cultivated in the Tiandao Sacred Academy when he was in the lower world. After the convention of the Myriad Realms, he would also head to the Tiandao Sacred Academy for cultivation. Does anyone have any objections? That major character spoke again. This entire space instantly turned silent. Everyone was silent. The countenance of that expert from the Dragon Pool Manor alternated between shades of green and white. His face was smacked in public again. Qin Wenyan wanted to enter the Tiandao Sacred Academy for cultivation. Would he dare to say that he had any objections? The Tiandao Sacred Academy was a transcendent power in the Mystic region. Their disciples could be found all over the world. It wasn't a place their Dragon Pool Manor could afford to offend. If Qin Wenyan wanted to head to the Tiandao Sacred Academy for cultivation, it was only normal that he didn't join the Ziwei Divine Court. The cultivation environment there wasn't any inferior compared to the Ziwei Divine Court. No wonder Qin Wenyan didn't participate in the competition for the Constellation Lord position. So it turned out that he was already valued by the Tiandao Sacred Academy and would head to the Tiandao Sacred Academy for cultivation. Many people were enlightened, they understood everything. The people from the Donghuang clan were speechless. Dong Huang-ing shut her mouth, no one dared to question Qin Wenyan anymore. The position of the Constellation Lord should be taken by another genius world overlord of the Mystic region. Qin Wenyan slowly spoke. His figure landed on the ground, causing many people to sigh in their hearts. There were countless world overlords in the convention. To many world overlords, the position of the Constellation Lord was an unreachable position. However, Qin Wenyan actually gave it up so easily. The commotion caused by the competition between Qin Wenyan and Yu Changkong, these two world overlords, temporarily came to an end. Very soon, there were people who went to the Constellation Lord position that Yu Changkong occupied earlier to continue accepting challenges. And just like what he said, Yu Changkong made a comeback and defeated another world overlord. Chao Tian and 10 Miles Springwind both silently cursed at how shameless Yu Changkong was. Even after being defeated, he still had the face to challenge Yu Changkong. If they were in Qin Wenyan's shoes, they would want nothing more than to rush up and knock him down. However, Qin Wenyan didn't have the mood to do so. He also wouldn't expose Yu Changkong. With Yu Changkong, a fake world overlord, the Ziwei Divine Court wouldn't pay attention to him. If it wasn't for Yu Changkong injuring Luo Shenlei, he wouldn't have stood out at all. Right now, it was naturally best for him to cultivate quietly. In the time realm, time flowed by. Many years had already passed. But according to the flow of time in the time realm, maybe only a few days had passed in the outside world. To cultivators, this was naturally a very good thing as they would have more time to cultivate. Sadly, they couldn't freely enter and exit the time realm. Today, there were no more battles on the Constellation Sea and Great Devil Battle platform. The Heavenly Deity Mountain also calmed down. Everything seemed to be coming to an end. Qin Wenyan had long brought his people back to his palace to cultivate, waiting for the convention of the Myriad Realms to end. Chapter 1796. Today, in the palace Qin Wenyin was in, a resplendent light suddenly erupted forth as many people gathered here. At this moment, a figure walked out from the courtyard ahead. His features were delicate and handsome, radiating sunlight. Right now, a complacent smile could be seen in his eyes. "Mingchen, not bad?" Qin Wenyin praised. Jun Mingchen smiled. "That's true. Senior brother, you have already broken through so long ago. I didn't cultivate for nothing after so many years." So it turned out that earlier, Jun Mingchen broke through and officially comprehended a world heart, becoming a world overlord. Another world overlord appeared beside Qin Wenyin. "You have to learn everything from your senior brother." Nanfeng Yaoyue smiled. "You directly comprehended a world heart before deducing a heaven heart mandate. This world heart should be extraordinary as well, right?" Although Nanfeng Yaoyue was happy, she also felt a trace of disappointment in her heart. The juniors all surpassed her. When she was in Azure Mystic, she was the matriarch of the Namhuang clan. Hee. Jun Mingchen laughed in a silly manner. "I'm still thinking of a name for my world heart. Senior brother, why don't you help me choose one? I want to see what kind of world heart it is." Qin Wenyin laughed. Jun Mingchen nodded. After that, he released his world heart. In an instant, Qin Wenyin and the others felt as though they were in a different world. This world belonged to Jun Mingchen. In this world, wind and clouds howled, lightning flashed, fire and ice coexisted. As long as Jun Mingchen willed it, the scenery of this world would change. "Senior brother, take a look at my attack." Jun Mingchen spoke. Instantly, the boundless energy in the world started gathering. A terrifying storm appeared in the sky, howling angrily. All the energy in the world seemed to be gathering at one point, attacking in the same direction. It was like the might of the end of the world, extremely terrifying. However, at the next instant, everything vanished, transforming into nothingness. Jun Mingchen was still smiling as he stood there. His lips curled up in satisfaction. It has been so many years and he has finally broken through to the world overlord realm. He was naturally very happy and even felt a little complacent. "You possess world energy. This scene is so terrifying, it's like the end of the world has arrived. Since your world heart is extraordinary, let's name it Apocalypse." Qin Wenyin said. Jun Mingchen's eyes flashed as he smiled and nodded. "All right, let's name it Doomsday. This name sounds domineering. Seems like I have to get some wine from 10 Miles Springwind to celebrate." Qin Wenyin said with a smile. Jun Mingchen said, "You want to rob him of his wine again. You are trying to kill him. That fellow is definitely hiding a lot more." Qin Wenyin transmitted his voice to inform 10 Miles Springwind. Very soon, his friends all came over to join in on the fun. They got Jun Mingchen to release his world heart to take a look, and all of them were full of praises for Jun Mingchen. After the banquet was prepared, the group of them sat in the pavilion of the palace and drank wine, completely ignoring what was happening outside. In the central region of the time realm, even if the heavens and earth were turned upside down, it had nothing to do with them. Such a state of mind was truly rare. Seems like the convention of the myriad realms is about to end. The battles on the Devil Battle platform are extremely intense. The clashes between Empyreans are truly fascinating. At the banquet, Chao Tian spoke. "That's true. Wenyan, do you still remember the absolute beginning overlord in the inn? Do you still remember back then when he invited you to my inn but you rejected him? He was extremely unhappy back then." 10 Miles Springwind laughed. Qin Wenyan nodded. At that time, there were many world overlords in the 10 Miles in paying a visit to a supreme world overlord. That supreme world overlord was none other than the absolute beginning overlord. If 10 Miles Springwind didn't mention it, Qin Wenyan would have forgotten about it. That fellow really thinks that he is very strong. He went to the Devil Battle platform to challenge a hegemonic level world overlord from the Chao clan. But in the end, the hegemonic level world overlord unleashed his heaven heart mandate and blasted him to the point where he coughed out blood. Many of the so-called hegemonic level world overlords have an undeserved reputation. But from this, one can tell that the disparity between world overlords is simply too great. Even if you are already very powerful, there are still world overlords who are stronger than you who can easily suppress you. 10 miles Springwind sighed. This time around, there are indeed many experts. But the battle between Qin Wenyin and Yu Changkong is definitely something that everyone will remember. Phoenix stared at Qin Wenyin as she giggled. This time around, you have truly become famous in the Mystic region. After the convention ends, the name of the Qingqing Realm Lord would surely circulate. Qin Wenyin smiled and didn't say anything. At this moment, a beam of light descended from the sky, resembling a divine radiance. The gazes of everyone froze as they inclined their heads and stared in that direction. Old Ghost narrowed his eyes as he mumbled in a low voice. The people from the 3 hegemonic powers have arrived. Seems like the convention is nearing its end. Do you want to go and take a look? Phoenix laughed. There's nothing to see. How can it be as enjoyable as drinking wine? Chao Tian spoke heroically. How magnificent! Pity my wine. 10 miles Springwind felt pain in his heart. At the center of the time realm, the attention of everyone was focused on them. The experts from the 3 hegemonic powers were as common as clouds. The experts from the 3 hegemonic powers arrived, attracting countless gazes. Countless world overlords in the entire convention all headed there to spectate. The palaces were all empty except for the palace where Qin Wenyin was in. The few of them were still drinking to their heart's content, creating a beautiful scenery. Qin Wenyin and the others didn't care about what happened there. Since Qin Wenyin decided to give up on fighting for fame and fortune in the convention, his heart would naturally be as calm as still water. This time around, he already felt that his harvest for the convention was extremely bountiful. In fact, it could even be considered an unexpected pleasant surprise. Everything else was no longer that important. In the central region of the time realm, some people were extremely dazzling, exuding boundless magnificence. Even for Yu Changkong, who was once defeated by Qin Wenyin, his wish was finally fulfilled. The Ziwei Divine Court invited him to join their ranks, becoming the center of attention of everyone. Although he was defeated once, his future was still destined to be glorious. As for the Qingqing Realm Lord, no one seemed to care about him. Back then, although he defeated Yu Changkong and obtained the position of the Constellation Lord, he took the initiative to give it up and would head to the Tiandao Sacred Academy for cultivation. This matter naturally couldn't be hidden from the Ziwei Divine Court. Hence, the Ziwei Divine Court didn't mention Qin Wenyin. In the crowd, Dong Huangying's beautiful eyes stared at the young man who was highly regarded by the Ziwei Divine Court. Pride could be seen in her eyes. So what if he was defeated before? He could still endure the humiliation and make a comeback. Right now, he finally joined the Ziwei Divine Court and even had the chance to meet a heavenly deity. His future accomplishments would surely be incomparably glorious and he would become a future monarch. There was no need to doubt that he would surpass Qin Wenyin. The heavenly deity mountain also accepted several transcendent-level world overlords. They were all people who had good encounters in the heavenly deity mountain and were suitable to cultivate there. Their talent was also extremely high. Only the Great Devil Divine Palace didn't accept any disciples. That person who obtained first place on the Devil Battle platform and sat on the Devil Throne, obtaining the Devil God Armor and Devil God Spear, was a hegemon of the Devil Path. He was the master of the Myriad Devil Realm and was known as the Myriad Devil Realm Lord. His strength towered up into the sky and he defeated many hegemonic-level experts. Naturally, there were also some extremely powerful hegemonic-level experts who didn't participate. Finally, the 3 hegemonic powers announced that the convention of the Myriad Realms has concluded. Next, the 3 hegemonic powers will release some cultivation arts for everyone in the time realm to cultivate. For those who are willing to stay behind, they can cultivate for 100 years in the time realm, starting from the day the time realm opens. Because, during this 100 years in the time realm, the flow of time in the time realm would be the fastest. In the outside world, only a year might have passed. To those who needed time to cultivate, this by itself was already an extremely great reward, allowing them to cultivate for close to 100 years more compared to the people in the outside world. Who wouldn't be willing? Maybe only those hegemonic level characters wouldn't mind it. 100 years more or less, to them, it didn't really matter. When Ian, do you plan to cultivate in the time realm or do you want to leave? 10 miles Springwind asked Qin Wenyan. I've only cultivated for roughly 500 plus years now. With close to 100 years of time, it's equivalent to 1/5 of my lifespan. Do you think I'd be willing to leave? Qin Wenyan laughed. To him, this was even greater compared to joining the Ziwei Divine Court. If he cultivated in the time realm, time would pass very slowly in the outside world. He would have wasted so many years of cultivation time. This fellow, you are mocking Old Ghost again. 10 miles Springwind laughed. Old Ghost ruthlessly glanced at 10 miles Springwind. This bastard actually used Qin Wentian's name to mock him. Close to 100 years, I definitely have to stay behind. Jun Mengchen also sighed. Okay, we will stay behind to accompany you guys. 10 miles Springwind casually spoke. In any case, not much time would pass in the outside world. They might as well stay here and cultivate. Everyone didn't have any objections. However, I still have something I need to settle in the outside world. If the time is up, I might leave in advance. If you guys want to cultivate, I can wait for you guys in Time City. Qin Wentian spoke. Right now, only a few days should have passed in the outside world. But after his uncle arrived in Time City, he would definitely head out. I don't mind. 10 miles Springwind casually spoke. Not only for them, the vast majority of people chose to stay behind. Only some major characters at the peak chose to leave. 100 years of time didn't hold much attraction to them. In the time realm, there were countless world overlords and it was still extremely lively. In addition, the 3 hegemonic powers sent over many cultivation manuals for the world overlords in the time realm to comprehend. Unknowingly, time flowed by. Qin Wenyan was in closed-door seclusion in the time realm, comprehending the laws of time and attempting to fuse them into his world heart. If he did so, his new world heart would be even more terrifying. However, the higher the world overlord's cultivation level, the higher the difficulty would be. It wasn't something that could be accomplished in a short period of time. Tens of years later, the vast majority of world overlords in the time realm were still around. It was said that only a few months have passed in the outside world. However, this was a minor matter. Today, a shocking piece of news circulated around the time realm. The source of this news came from the Donghuang clan. After the successor of the Time King, Yu Changkong left, he headed to the Ziwei Divine Court. During these few months, he passed some tests in the Ziwei Divine Court and now, he was accepted as a disciple by a heavenly deity. For a period of time, he became one of the young men with the strongest background in the mystic region. He was incomparably dazzling. It was unknown how many people were envious of him. After Qin Wenyan learned of this news, he shook his head and smiled. Most probably, the Ziwei Divine Court didn't wish for another character like the Sword Monarch to appear out of control. Naturally, Yu Changkong's talent was also very outstanding. Not long after this news circulated out, Yu Changkong actually made an exception and returned to the time realm. Disciples of heavenly deities naturally had special privileges. This time around, his purpose for coming here was to propose marriage to Donghuang Ying. The Donghuang clan immediately agreed. For a period of time, Yu Changkong became the focal point of countless people. He was the successor of the Time King, the son of a heavenly deity, a disciple of the Sun Moon Sacred Mountain, the son-in-law of the Donghuang clan. Right now in the mystic region, how many young geniuses could be mentioned in the same breath as him? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.